Chapter 775, The competition began. The gathering of 21 powerful forces is simply an unprecedented event. All the heavens' favorites are here. Is that the Dragon Gate? There are so few of them. However, it is said that none of the disciples of the Dragon Gate are below the infant realm. I really didn't expect that there would be such a terrifying force in the pugilistic world. I heard that the one who blocked the city gate of the Hunyuan Immortal Gate was an expert of the Dragon Gate. It's simply too domineering. That's Shenyuan Fengyi from the Shenyuan clan. Shenyuan Fengyi has a very high chance of winning the first place in this Heaven's Favorites competition. His Shenyuan spirit sword can shock the sun and the moon. Yuan Hua from the Yuan clan is also very powerful. He might also win the first place in this Heaven's Favorites competition. Look at the position of the Fengyan Immortal sect. The one standing at the front is Ching Ching. She is simply too beautiful. How nice it would be if I could get close to her. Ching Ching, Shenyuan Yun Flower Fairy, Hua Fairy, and all the other peerless beauties have arrived. Today's trip was not in vain. In the genius competition, whoever gets the first place will be the bright moon that suppresses the same generation, the king of geniuses among the younger generation. The competition hasn't started yet. No one can be sure who is the king of geniuses, and who can suppress the same generation. This is too exciting. The king of heaven's favorites, a genius who can suppress an era. A genius who is as bright as the moon in the sky. Who will be the winner? On the 22 platforms, all the disciples of the immortal sects were discussing excitedly. On the 22 platforms of the immortal sects, the seated participants of the immortal sects stood at the front with proud faces. Each of the youths had a lofty head, and their bodies were exuding powerful confidence and proud expressions. They were the most powerful existences among the current generation of disciples of the immortal sections. They were the strongest disciples of the current generation of the immortal sects, and they had the strength to be proud of themselves. And everyone was also talking about these disciples. Perhaps other than them, only beautiful women with peerless beauty could make the people around them talk. However, this time, the main character was a heaven's favorite. Who could suppress an era? Who was the king of heaven's favorites? Boom! 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 At this moment, an immortal god with terrifying power flew over from the immortal platform. It's Lord Immortal God and the others. That's the Grand Elder of the Shenyuan clan, a high-level immortal, one of the most powerful people in the current generation. That's the Grand Elder of the Yuan clan. The sect masters of the Holy Medicine Immortal sect and the Holy Doctor Immortal sect. When the immortal gods that seemed to be carrying the power of a small world flew over one after another, the immortal gods were like the shining sun, causing people to feel fear in their hearts. The slightly noisy sounds in the battleground quickly quieted down, and the immortal sect disciples raised their heads to look at the immortal gods in awe. Even the most outstanding disciples of the immortal sects were filled with awe and yearning. Only by stepping into the immortal realm could one transcend from the mortal realm and truly transcend from the mortal realm. Dragon King of the Dragon Gate, that's the Dragon King. He's so young. It's said that the Dragon King is only in his 20s. Suddenly, a slightly high and surprised voice was heard. The 7,000 to 8,000 people around looked at the young man who was walking in the air. He was dressed in black and there was a picture of a 5-colored divine dragon on it. The Dragon King, who was giving off an imposing aura, was full of endless majesty. He's an immortal god in his 20s. The founder of the Dragon Gate is only in his 20s. The prodigy competition. With the Dragon King's age, all the prodigies in the competition are probably older than the Dragon King, right? Even if a young prodigy becomes a prodigy king, he's just an ant in front of the Dragon King, right? Some people suddenly whispered, and then their expressions became strange. Prodigy king. Suppressing the same era. Compared to a mid-level immortal in his 20s, who was the founder of a force that could rival immortal sects, the so-called prodigy king might only be considered pretty good in his eyes. In an instant, even the strongest disciples of immortal sects looked a little dazed. All the immortal gods came to the sky above their respective immortal sects and looked down at all the disciples of the immortal sections. Today will be the first Heaven's Chosen Disciple competition of China's Jianghu. Every disciple who makes it onto the list represents the glory of an immortal sect. Those who make it onto the list will be rewarded by the immortal sect. As the Grand Elder of the Shenyuan clan spoke, he waved his arm and items flew directly to a huge pillar of light in the middle. According to the ranking, the rewards will be selected in order. The most precious item is an immortal artifact that the Dragon King of the Dragon Gate made. I now announce that the grand competition of the disciples of the Immortal Gate has officially begun. The voice of the Grand Elder of the Shenyuan clan rang out in everyone's ears. The group of immortals slowly landed on the platform of the disciples of the Immortal Gate. There were seats at the very front. So many treasures. The reward for being able to enter the top 21 is simply too crazy. The lowest is a grade 7 medicinal pill. The most precious thing is actually an immortal god weapon. Moreover, it's a custom-made immortal god weapon. It's too rich. The Dragon King is not only a middle-level immortal, but also a grandmaster of artifact refining. He can create immortal god weapons. If the first place in this grand competition is the bright moon, then the Dragon King is the radiant sun. Once the radiant sun appears, the bright moon loses its splendor. The disciples of the immortal sects looked at the objects in the light pillar in amazement, their eyes shining with a fiery light. At the same time, all the disciples of the immortal sects were full of exclamations toward the Dragon King. Even the beauties on the Peerless Beauty chart all looked toward the Dragon Gate stage. However, when they saw the 6 women sitting together with the Dragon King on the stage, they were slightly stunned. Each of the 6 women was more beautiful than the other. In terms of temperament and appearance, they were definitely comparable to the top 5 beauties on the Supreme Beauty chart, or even higher. At the beginning of the grand competition, there are 5 arenas in the arena. Except for the 20 seeded contestants, 21 disciples will be selected from all the disciples of the immortal sections. They will compete with the 20 seeded contestants for the 21 spots. All strength is respected. There are no rules on the arenas. The winner is the king, and a life and death battle can be decided. The grand competition began. The rules stated that the winner was the king, and a life and death battle could be decided. This was a Heaven's Chosen competition, and it was also a battle between immortal sections. The immortals and gods didn't act, so the grudges had to be settled in the disciple competition. This meant that this battle would be very bloody, and people would die in it. The so-called genius competition was also a war between the immortal sections. The hatred could be resolved here. The immortal gods were the chess players, and the disciples of the immortal sects were the chess pieces. They controlled the chess pieces and played the game. Start the disciple competition of the immortal sects. A loud shout sounded out, indicating that the disciple competition of the immortal sects had begun. In an instant, all the confident young geniuses were filled with fighting spirit. Among the immortal sects, my Shenyuan clan is the strongest. I, Shenyuan Hao, will be the first to appear. Who wants to fight? A disciple of the Shenyuan clan moved and directly jumped onto an arena in the center. He raised his head slightly and spoke arrogantly. Chapter 776, Provoked. The disciple competition officially began. The disciples of the Shenyuan clan stepped out and proudly announced that the Shenyuan clan was the strongest existence among all the immortal sections. This was a display of the immortal sects and also a strong confidence. The competition itself was a declaration of the strength of the immortal sects, so the disciples of the Shenyuan clan did not keep a low profile. They proudly glanced at all the disciples of the immortal sects around them. A few immortal gods and disciples of the Shenyuan clan looked at Shenyuan Hao with smiles on their faces. Shenyuan Hao, who was the first to appear, was definitely not ordinary. For a time, no one came to challenge him. If there aren't any, I'll take one of the 21 spots. The corner of Shenyuan Hao's mouth slightly curled up as he announced confidently. Shenyuan Hao is the most outstanding disciple besides Shenyuan Fengyi. He has the strength of an infant realm cultivator and has 2 grade 12 spirit weapons. His strength is very terrifying. Xian Yuanhao dared to come out for the first time. He must have great confidence and strength. His strength is comparable to some seated disciples of the immortal sects. The surrounding disciples of the immortal sects discussed in a low voice. This person is really arrogant. Are all the disciples of the immortal sects so arrogant? Xiao Yu looked at Xian Yuanhao below and curled her lips as she said. He is showing off the strength of the Shenyuan clan. At this moment, the disciples are outstanding and represent the immortal sects. Wang Xian said lightly with a smile. No one from the Xian Yuan clan accepted the challenge. Next, a disciple from the Yuan clan also went up. No one accepted the challenge. Ah, Xiao Xian, look. This disciple from the wild beast immortal sect looks like a wild beast. The third person who went up was a disciple from the wild beast clan. He was extremely tall and sturdy. He was about 3 meters tall and exuded a ferocious aura. Wang Xian looked over and narrowed his eyes slightly. There are 2 immortal gods in the wild beasts immortal sect. Both of them are spirit beasts. The strongest golden lion can speak human language and has the strength of a superior immortal. The disciples of the wild beasts immortal sect are not only humans, but also spirit beasts. It's really magical. Lan Qingyue and the other girls exclaimed in surprise. Even when the disciples of the wild beasts immortal sect entered the arena, no one dared to accept the challenge. Disciple of the holy doctor immortal sect, Bien poisonous dragon, come and challenge me. After the disciples of the wild beast immortal sect left the arena, a young man flew out from the direction of the holy doctor immortal sect. He was holding a black scepter in his hand. On the head of the scepter was the head of a black poisonous snake. It looked sinister and terrifying. He stood on the arena and scanned his surroundings. Finally, he suddenly looked in the direction of the dragon gate. The corner of his mouth curled up slightly as he asked arrogantly. Ha! Wang Xian raised his eyebrows when he saw the young man's gaze. Is there anyone who wants to challenge me? The young man's gaze was still fixed on the Dragon Gate's platform. He raised his head slightly and his eyes were filled with a cold expression. He raised his voice and shouted. This is... All the other disciples of the immortal sect were slightly stunned. Even the immortal gods were smiling as they watched this scene. The immortal gods were the chess players, and the disciples of the immortal sects were the chess pieces. With the relationship between the Holy Medicine Immortal Sect and the Dragon Sect, the immortal gods' chess pieces moved. Naturally, they wanted to use the chess pieces to embarrass the Dragon Sect. Why didn't the Dragon Sect have any disciples participate in this competition? The Dragon Sect should have disciples under the age of 40, and their strength has reached the infant realm. Maybe they think that their disciples are not strong enough. There is still a big gap between the battle strength of the infant realm. The Dragon Sect has only been established for a few years. No matter how powerful the Dragon King is, he can't be compared with the Holy Medicine Immortal Sect and the Holy Medicine Immortal Sect. I didn't expect the Holy Medicine Immortal Sect and the Dragon Gate to have a conflict. These 2 immortal sects have more than 1,000 years of foundation. This flat poison dragon poison wood technique is very terrifying. I feel that among the 21 disciples who won in the end, he is definitely one of them. If the Dragon Gate doesn't have any disciples, it will be a little embarrassing. The surrounding disciples of the immortal sect looked at the flat poison dragon who was staring at the Dragon Gate and started to discuss. Let me have a taste of Brother Bien Du Long. At this moment, a young man flew out from the natural-born immortal sect and landed on the arena, staring at Bien Du Long. When the surrounding disciples saw the natural-born immortal sect's disciple making a move, they were also slightly stunned, and their faces revealed a look of surprise and doubt. Are you courting death? Bien Du Long saw a disciple from the natural-born immortal sect making a move to destroy the arena, and a cold expression appeared on his face. My hands are itchy, so I made a move once. The young man said to Bien Du Long indifferently. At the same time, he was sending a message that they, the innate immortal sect, would only make a move once. This was a message to the Holy Medicine Immortal Sect and the Holy Doctor Immortal Sect. At the same time, it was also a message to Wang Xian. The innate immortal sect was cooperating with the Dragon Sect. Making a move once could be considered to be doing their best. If you don't know what's good for you, don't blame me for being merciless. The cold-faced young man moved and attacked. With a wave of his arm, the terrifying black poisonous wood instantly grew crazily under his feet. The poisonous wood was filled with sharp thorns and contained a terrifying poison. The young man from the innate immortal sect had a solemn expression. Similarly, the green trees around him also grew. The first battle began. Pang! Brother, that fellow is too arrogant. He is clearly provoking us. I will teach him a good lesson. At this moment, Xiao Yu slapped the chair and stood up with an angry expression. Wang Xian narrowed his eyes and said, "Sit down, Xiao Yu. Even if you were to make a move, you don't have to make a move. Moreover, if you were to make a move, it wouldn't be as simple as teaching him a lesson." He looked towards the positions of the Holy Medicine Sect and the Holy Doctor Sect. He met the cold and mocking expressions of the 6 celestials of the green-robed elder and the rest. The disciples of the Holy Medicine Immortal Sect also looked over with their heads held high. Wang Xian smiled and knocked on the chair indifferently. "Ah, I admit defeat." At this moment, a scream came from below. The face of the young man from the innate immortal sect turned black. Black blood spewed from the corner of his mouth as he shouted in fear. "Pitch, you dare to challenge me? You don't know death." The pitch-black thorn in the flat poison dragon's hand swung heavily towards the young man. The powerful force caused him to fly backwards as he spoke with a face full of disdain. Pang! An innate immortal sect elder finished off the young man with an embarrassed expression. What a killjoy! The young man held the black poisonous snake scepter in his hand as he spoke with disdain. His gaze directly turned towards the direction of the Dragon Gate. Originally, I wanted to challenge the disciples of the Dragon Gate, but in the end, I actually became a coward. Hee, disciples of the Dragon Gate, you are welcome to fight at any time. Ha ha ha, our Holy Medicine Immortal Gate and the Holy Doctor Immortal Gate will accept all of them. The flat poison dragon laughed loudly and flew directly in the direction of his immortal gate. Hee, Dragon King, since you are here, don't be a spectator. Come out and play. Can't you be a disciple? At this moment, an indifferent voice filled the entire battleground. At the position of the Holy Medicine Immortal Sect, an immortal said with slight mockery. Everyone was shocked and held their breaths as they looked over. Play? All right. Tomorrow, the life and death battle between the young disciples of the sect, can you accept it? Wang Xian looked over with a smile. A trace of coldness flashed in his eyes as he asked indifferently. Our Holy Medicine Immortal Sect and Holy Doctor Immortal Sect have been around for 1,000 years. Why would we be afraid of a newly established dragon sect? The immortals from Holy Doctor Immortal Sect and Holy Medicine Immortal Sect laughed maniacally as they spoke loudly. Their voices spread across a radius of dozens of kilometers. This was the confidence of the two immortal sects that had been around for 1,000 years. Chapter 777, million people were watching. Boom! A life and death battle. A life and death battle between the Dragon Gate and the Holy Medicine Immortal Sect. The conversation between the Dragon King and the Holy Medicine Immortal Sect Master thoroughly stirred up all the disciples of the Immortal Sect in the surroundings. A life and death battle between young disciples. Is this a complete massacre? How can there be such hatred between the Dragon Gate and the Holy Medicine Immortal Sect? It's said that the Dragon King has exterminated the clansmen of the previous two immortal sects in the real world. The Dragon King is not rational. The Holy Medicine Immortal Sect and the Holy Medicine Immortal Sect have been passed down for thousands of years and have an unfathomable foundation. On the surface, they already have 2 middle-level immortals, 8 lower-level immortals, and tens of millions of disciples. How can the Dragon Gate compare with the Holy Medicine Immortal Sect and the Holy Medicine Immortal Sect? This is the dignity of immortals. If the Dragon King doesn't express his stance, I'm afraid that the disciples of the Holy Medicine Immortal Sect and the Holy Doctor Immortal Sect will continue to provoke them. Then, the Dragon Sect will lose a lot of face in the future. I heard that in order to appear in the world, the Holy Medicine Immortal Sect and the Holy Doctor Immortal Sect have taken out many precious medicinal pills. There are more than a dozen infant realm experts among the disciples under the age of 40. I heard that Hua Gujiang, the strongest disciple of the two immortal sects, has already reached the half-step immortal realm. The group of immortal sect disciples discussed in a low voice. Their faces were filled with astonishment. The Dragon Sect versus the Holy Doctor Immortal Sect and the Holy Medicine Immortal Sect was a major event in the martial arts world, especially the life and death battle. It was a battle that would not stop until one of them died. In the martial arts world, I, the Dragon King, have never been afraid of anyone. I hope that one of us will survive in the near future. When Wang Xian heard the arrogant laughter of the sect leader of the Holy Medicine Sect, he laughed out loud as well. He stared at them fearlessly. Good, good. Upon hearing Wang Xian's words, the faces of all the immortals from the Holy Medicine Sect and the Holy Medicine Sect darkened. I hope the Dragon King will remember what you said today. Their eyes were filled with a crazy killing intent as they stared at Wang Xian coldly. He. Wang Xian stared at them without showing any signs of weakness. His eyes were also filled with coldness. What was there to fear from the two immortal sects? Hiss! All the disciples of the immortal sects around sucked in a breath of cold air. Even if they were not fighting together, this tit-for-tat aura still caused everyone's scalps to go numb and their hearts to be filled with fear. This Dragon King is indeed the same as what was recorded in the information. The two supreme elders of the Xian Yuan clan and the Yuan clan looked at each other. All the other immortal gods shook their heads slightly, which was exactly the same as what was recorded in the information. No matter who the Dragon King of the Dragon Gate was, as long as he provoked him, he would never lower his head. Many people were still very afraid of such a force. However, the two immortal sects, Holy Medicine and Holy Doctor, were not among them. All the immortal gods were filled with fear, even fear, towards these two immortal sects that were closely related to each other. Even the Xian Yuan clan didn't dare to say that they didn't take them seriously. The combined strength of these two immortal sects was definitely much more terrifying than on the surface. Su Yuanjia of the True Martial Immortal Academy. The atmosphere was silent for a while. Then, a disciple of the True Martial Immortal Academy moved his body and flew directly onto the arena. He cupped his hands towards the surroundings and then stared coldly at the Strange Thorn clan. Does anyone from the Strange Thorn tribe dare to fight with me? I hope that you won't be afraid. There is a conflict between the True Martial Immortal Academy and the Strange Thorn tribe. When they first appeared in this world, there was a conflict between them, which led to a battle between immortals. The Dragon Gate and the Holy Medicine Holy Doctor sect have made a start. The real battle is about to begin. The True Martial Immortal Academy and the Strange Thorn tribe had a grudge against each other. The Yongchang Immortal sect and the Ji tribe had a conflict. Furthermore, there was a conflict between the immortal sects in the Yongchang region and the immortal sects in the Jiding region. The life and death battle between Wang Xian and the sect leader of the Holy Medicine Immortal sect could be considered to have started. Intense battles began one after another. The entire Heaven's Pride Grand Competition was more intense than expected, and it was still brutal. The victorious disciples of the immortal sect cheered, mocked, and provoked. The defeated immortal sect could only watch with an embarrassed expression. This is not a Heaven's Pride Grand Competition at all, but a game between immortals and gods. On the stage, Sun Lingxiu looked at the battles below and said with a frown. That's right. Immortals and gods are forbidden to fight. We have to settle our grudges somewhere else. Wang Xian nodded his head. He finally understood that the so-called competition between Heaven's favorites was a competition between the immortal sections. At first, he thought of not letting the disciples of the Dragon Gate fight. But now, it seemed like. Hee. Since they had made a move, they would regret it a lot and let them know the outcome. The competition went on, and the smell of gunpowder gradually subsided. Some disciples of the Immortal Gate who had no grudges went up to fight for the 21 spots. Those who could come out to fight were at least in the infant stage. The disciples of the dance stage and half-step dance stage didn't have the information to go up to the stage. It was a true battle between heaven's favorites and the core disciples of the immortal sections. It's almost certain now that the Shenyuan clan has 4 people in the top 21, the Yuan clan has 2, the Wild Beast Immortal sect has 3, and the Holy Medicine Holy Doctor Immortal sect has 4. The powerful immortal sects occupy a lot of places, and many of the weaker immortal sect disciples can't even make it into the top 21. The first place is almost certainly in the hands of these gods. Tomorrow, Longmen will have a life and death battle with the Holy Medicine sect. I'm really looking forward to it. As the sun slowly set, the surrounding disciples of the immortal sect whispered to each other. 21 spots were almost certain. In one day's battle, 3 disciples of the immortal sect died in the battle, which could be said to be very intense. Some immortal sects were also full of gunpowder. The battle was very fierce. However, what everyone was looking forward to the most was the life and death battle between the Dragon Gate and the Holy Medicine Holy Doctor Immortal sect tomorrow. 21 spots have been created. The final battle will be held in the next 2 days. Today's competition is over. If you have nothing to do, you can go sightseeing in our Shenyuan city. It will still be the same time tomorrow. The Grand Elder of the Shenyuan clan slowly stood up and faced everyone. Let's go. The immortal gods stood up and flew directly toward their respective peaks, while the other disciples followed closely behind. Disciples of the Dragon Gate, don't be a coward. In the battle tomorrow, I, Hua Gujiang, will lead the disciples of the 2 great immortal sects and kill all of you. At this moment, the disciples of the Holy Medicine Immortal sect laughed loudly and flew away with ease behind the immortal god. Pitch, you'll be crying tomorrow. Xiao Yu couldn't help but shout loudly. This is going to be interesting. The Holy Medicine Immortal sect is at a complete advantage now. I reckon that the Dragon Gate is going to be in danger tomorrow. The Holy Medicine sect's Hua Gujiang has personally spoken. Among the young disciples, Hua Gujiang can be ranked in the top 5. On the other hand, the Dragon Gate doesn't have a single one. The winner will be decided immediately. When the surrounding disciples saw this scene, they whispered among themselves. Hua Gujiang. He's really courting death. Xiao Yu alone can wipe out all the elite disciples of their 2 great immortal sects. At the Yellow Heaven Immortal sect's position, Feng Lingtian saw this scene and said disdainfully. Ling Xiao, who was at the side, nodded slowly and then frowned. Between disciples, a single little feather can crush all the disciples of the Holy Medicine, and Immortal sect, but the Dragon Gate is still much weaker in terms of combat power at the Immortal God level. There might be huge trouble in the future. Chapter 778, Conflict. The first day of the Prodigy tournament ended, and this tournament caused a huge commotion in the pugilistic world. The pugilistic world website specially opened up a section for this tournament to be discussed by everyone. And after the first day ended, the entire discussion section was in an uproar. Especially now that the number of pugilistic world martial artists had reached over 100 million, hundreds of posts were being sent out every second. The disputes between the several great immortal sects were also going on here. The immortal sects that didn't have a good relationship with each other were attacking each other. The disciples who entered the top 21 today naturally received the attention of countless martial artists. But what made everyone pay the most attention and shocked today was the agreement between the Dragon King of the Dragon Gate and the Holy Medicine Immortal sect, which caused countless people to talk about it. However, because the Holy Medicine Immortal sect's disciples and family members numbered in the tens of millions, and the Dragon Gate didn't have anyone to support them. The forum of the world of martial arts was full of abuse and contempt for the Dragon Gate. A small Dragon Gate dares to oppose our holy medicine immortal sect? It's simply courting death. Tomorrow, under the leadership of senior brother Hua Gujiang, I'll let you know the consequences of provoking us. A small Dragon Gate Dragon King has only been established for a few years. He doesn't have the slightest foundation. So what if he has a few immortals? Whether it's the number of disciples or the number of immortals, we're completely destroyed. If the immortals could make a move, they would have destroyed this trash Dragon Gate long ago. The brothers who support the holy medicine immortal sect. This Dragon King is very arrogant. He thinks that he has become an immortal god at such a young age, but he doesn't put his seniors in his eyes. He is arrogant and has a death wish. A small force in the Jianghu dares to go against our orthodox immortal sect. He is simply courting death. It is said that this Dragon Gate doesn't even have ordinary disciples. Many people mocked the Dragon Gate. Even the immortal god-level Dragon King dared to speak arrogantly on the Jianghu internet. After all, they had no scruples even though they were separated by the internet. Besides the people of the Holy Medicine immortal sect, the disciples of the other immortal sects didn't think highly of the Dragon Gate. After all, the strength of the Holy Medicine immortal sects could be considered as the top among the 20 immortal sections. How could the Dragon Gate contend with them? The disciples of the immortal sects didn't think highly of the Dragon Gate when it came to the life and death battle between the disciples of the Dragon Gate and the Holy Medicine immortal sect tomorrow. Some people even shouted that they would post pictures of the disciples of the Dragon sect being killed tomorrow, attracting the support of many people. Xiao Yu, beautiful lady. Wang Xian, Xiao Yu, Xu Qing, and the rest had just returned to the mountain peak when they heard Feng Lingtian's voice from outside. What are you doing? Xiao Yu heard the voice and walked out of the room with a smile on her face. She looked at Feng Lingtian and shouted loudly. Let's go out and have some fun. Let's go to Shenyuan City. Since we're already here, we should at least have some fun. Feng Lingtian looked up at Xiao Yu and said with a smile. Wait. Xiao Yu shouted and returned to her room. Brothers, sisters-in-law, do you want to go to Shenyuan City to have some fun? How can we be third wheel when there's a handsome guy who wants to date a beauty like Xiao Yu alone? Lan Qingyue looked at her with a big smile on her face and said with a smile. How is that possible? He's so weak. I can fight 10 of him alone. Xiao Yu pouted. Let's go, sisters-in-law. Let's go out and have some fun. Xiao Xian, are you going? A few girls were tempted and asked Wang Xian. No, you guys go ahead. There are some things that I need to take care of. Wang Xian shook his head at them. Brother, we'll go out then. I'll bring you some delicious food. Xiao Yu waved her hands at him and walked out happily. Wang Xian smiled and nodded. Go. After the group of girls left, Wang Xian sat on a chair in the middle while Ao Jian stood at the side expressionlessly. Use the galactic stone to contact Prime Minister Gui. Ask him to bring 5 members of the Golden Swordfish clan over tomorrow. The 5 of them must be at the half-step immortal realm. Use some resources to nurture them. Also, send another 15 people at the infant realm. Wang Xian knocked on the table slowly. Also, send 30 people from the strange demon clan over. It's the Dragon King. Ao Jian nodded respectfully. Wang Xian narrowed his eyes slightly. Holy Medicine Holy Doctor Sect, it's best not to provoke me. Otherwise. His eyes sparkled. Otherwise, so what if there was an agreement between the immortals and gods? When one's strength reached a certain level, one could completely ignore the rules. Following that, Wang Xian called Imo Qinglong over and asked about the shop. While Wang Xian was dealing with the matter, Xiao Yu and the girls were strolling around the city of Shenyuan City with Feng Lingtian. Shenyuan City was the city of the 2 immortal sects, the Shenyuan clan and the Yuan clan. It could be considered as the largest ancient city at the moment. There were over 10 million people living in the city. The streets were abnormally bustling with people. That's Feng Lingtian from the Yellow Heaven Immortals sect, the son of the sect leader of the Yellow Heaven Immortals sect. He's a seated contestant. I heard that he's extremely powerful and is known as the freakish crown prince by the people from the Yellow Cauldron. That's true. According to the comments on the Jianghu website, Feng Lingtian is at least at the peak of the infant realm, and can be ranked at the top in this competition. Who are the beauties beside him? They're so beautiful. Walking on the streets of Shenyuan City, some of the martial artists in the city saw Feng Lingtian and whispered to him. The heaven's chosen disciples of the 20 immortal sects could be said to be celebrities in the Jianghu. The Jianghu website had detailed information about them and their appearances. Hearing the discussions of the people around him, Feng Lingtian instinctively raised his chest with a hint of arrogance on his face. It was the first time Guan Shuqing, Lan Qingyue and the other three appeared in public, so no one knew who they were. What are you pretending to be arrogant for, little slave? Seeing his expression, Xiao Yu stared at him mockingly. He. Feng Lingtian's face immediately fell. I am now at least a heaven's chosen among all the disciples of the immortal sections. Of course, I cannot be with Xiao Yu, the great beauty. If you participate, what does it have to do with us? Oh right, are you going on stage tomorrow? Feng Lingtian looked at her curiously. No need. My brother will take care of it. Didn't you say that you've read the strategy of Shenyuan City? Hurry up and bring us to eat good food. Xiao Yu urged. Okay. Come with me. I know the most popular restaurant in Shenyuan City. I don't know if there are still seats available. Let's hurry over. As Feng Lingtian spoke, he looked at the 5 beauties beside Xiao Yu and could not help but say, Xiao Yu, your brother really enjoys the blessings of all. Of course, my sister-in-law is very beautiful. But don't think about it. You are the life of a servant. Xiao Yu smiled as if it was a matter of course and raised his head slightly. Behind him, a few girls looked around with smiles on their faces. It was Tang Yinxian and Elder Fan who felt a little unnatural when they heard their conversation. Over there, the God of Cooking restaurant, the hottest restaurant in Shenyuan City. The food there is one of the best in the world. Chapter 779, Under the Conflict of. The God of Cooking restaurant was the best and most famous restaurant in Shenyuan City. The restaurant used powerful beasts and all kinds of spiritual herbs as ingredients. Ever since it appeared in the world, its reputation had spread far and wide. Boss, do you still have any seats here? After entering the God of Cooking restaurant, Feng Lingtian shouted at the waiter inside. What a coincidence, young master. There are still a few tables upstairs. Please come in. The waiter in gray warmly welcomed them and led them upstairs. Ah, the food here smells so good. Xiao Yu sniffed the fragrance around him and said in surprise. The eyes of the other girls also lit up. Beauties love delicious food the most, especially since they would not gain weight no matter how much they ate. Go objectively. Please come in. The waiter in gray shouted and pointed at a square table inside. The table wasn't small, enough for everyone to sit down. Sisters-in-law, this way please. Feng Lingtian extended his hand with a warm smile on his face. To him, the girls in front of him were real masters. One of them was the sister of the Dragon King, and she tortured him to death. The others were also the Dragon King's women, so they had to be respectful. Good boy. Xiao Yu smiled and walked inside with a smile on his face. This Dragon King of the Dragon Gate is really insolent. He dares to challenge our Holy Medicine Immortals sect. He really brought this upon himself. Fairy Hua, an immortal cannot lose face. Otherwise, the whole world will laugh at him. This Dragon Gate doesn't have any disciples at all. I think it will only add to the laughter when I go on stage tomorrow. I alone can crush all the young disciples of the Dragon Gate. Of course. With your strength, young Master Yuan, I think you will be able to get into the top 10. Although I am not as strong as my brother and a little weaker than Hua Gujiang, I am still very confident in getting into the top 10. Xian naturally believes in young Master Yuan's strength. Just as they walked over, they suddenly heard a voice from the side. Instantly, everyone frowned and looked to the side. A group of 6 people, 3 young men and 3 women. 2 of them, Xiao Yu and the others recognized them at a glance. The second most outstanding disciple of the Yuan clan, Yu Wenyue, and Fairy Hua of the Holy Medicine Immortal Sect. Pitch, how arrogant. One person crushing a young disciple of the Dragon Gate? Those words are really exaggerated. The battle hasn't even started yet and you guys are already bragging here. How arrogant. Before Xiao Yu and the rest could say anything, Feng Lingtian who was sitting at the side said in disdain. Ha! The 6 people who were chatting at the side immediately frowned and looked at Feng Lingtian and the rest. As their gazes swept over, Yu Wenyue and Fairy Hua raised their brows. So it's Feng Lingtian from the Yellow Heaven Immortal Sect. Watch your words and don't cause trouble for your father. The corners of Yuanyu's mouth curled up slightly as she stared at Feng Lingtian and said disdainfully. An immortal sect that only had one middle-level immortal was not in the Yuan clan's eyes. His father was also a middle-level immortal. When Feng Lingtian heard his words, his face turned dark and gloomy. Be careful with your words. I think you should be careful with your words. Pleasing beautiful women isn't like this. Xiao Yu took a step forward and looked at Yu Wenyue coldly. Little girl, this is not trying to please, but telling a fact. Fairy Hua slowly stood up and stared at Xiao Yu coldly. We are just telling a fact. You guys who only know how to brag here, your holy medicine holy doctor immortal sect will know what embarrassment is tomorrow. Xiao Yu snorted coldly and said with slight disdain. Embarrassment? Based on your tiny dragon gate? Fairy Hua raised her head slightly and stared at Xiao Yu. Tiny dragon gate, then should we give it a try? Xiao Yu revealed a trace of a cold smile and stared at her without showing any weakness. Fight? Based on you? Fairy Hua's gaze turned cold. Little girl, you'd better scram home. Interesting. I heard that the top 5 on the Peerless Beauty list all have the strength of the infant realm. I'll let you see the strength of our dragon gate with one hand. Xiao Yu's arm moved, and a bone whip appeared in his hand. His eyes revealed a mocking expression. Don't let me think that you're just a vixen who knows how to seduce men. You're sharp-tongued. I'll teach you a lesson on behalf of your parents. Fairy Hua's expression was a little awkward when she heard Xiao Yu's words. The emerald green bracelet on her wrist moved, and a vine also appeared in her hand. I'll let you attack first. Otherwise, you won't have a chance to attack. Xiao Yu laughed loudly and said mockingly. You're looking for a beating. See if I won't break your mouth. A trace of murderous intent appeared in Fairy Hua's eyes. She waved her arm, and the vine in her hand directly attacked Xiao Yu. What's going on? They're actually fighting. That's Fairy Hua. Who's the other girl? She's from the Dragon Gate. That's one of the immortals from the Dragon Gate. Hiss, Yu from the Yuan clan is also here. On the second floor of the God of Cooking restaurant, there were also some disciples from other immortal sects who came here to eat. When they saw the 2 girls who suddenly attacked, they were shocked. When Feng Lingtian saw Little Feather attack, he took a step back. When Yu saw Fairy Hua attack, she also looked at her coldly. Fairy Hua had the strength of the infant realm. How could an unknown little girl deal with her? When the waiter in gray saw this scene, he wiped the cold sweat on his forehead and did not dare to persuade her. This heaven's favorite from the Yuan clan did not stop her. Even his boss did not dare to stop her. Paw! Fairy Hua's cane swung over. A trace of disdain appeared in Xiao Yu's eyes. He waved the cane in his hand lightly and directly welcomed it. Paw! The two long whips collided. However, in an instant, the bone whip suddenly grew longer and directly hit Fairy Hua's face. A heavy sound rang out. In an instant, a long bloody scar appeared on her fair and delicate face. Fairy Hua was instantly stunned. She felt the pain and blood on her face, and her expression changed drastically. "Ah, you're courting death." Her expression became a little twisted, and her aura shook violently. The dense wood attribute on her body caused thorns to appear on the wooden floor. Paw! However, at this moment, the bone whip in Little Feather's hand swung out once again. Fairy Hua's expression changed drastically, and a wooden shield instantly appeared in front of her. However, the wooden shield was directly broken, and the bone whip once again landed on her beautiful face. This time, Xiaoyu did not stop. The bone whip in his hand grew longer and directly wrapped around her entire body. Bang! She pulled heavily, and Fairy Hua instantly fell in front of her. High and mighty Fairy Hua! How about this little girl from a small dragon sect? Xiaoyu stared at the Fairy Hua lying in front of her mockingly and asked with a smile. "I'll kill you." Chapter 780, Fearlessly Charged Forward. "I'm going to kill you." A sharp voice came from Fairy Hua's mouth on the second floor of the God of Cooking Tower. Her face was full of blood marks. Her body was tied up by the bone whip, and she was lying on the ground in an unusual sorry state. She was the dignified Fairy Hua, the fourth most beautiful woman in the world. She was the goddess in the hearts of thousands of martial artists. Now, she was lying in front of a little girl. If the martial artists in the pugilistic world knew about this, she, Fairy Hua, would become a laughing stock. Today, she would become the biggest stain in her life. No, when she saw a martial artist take out his cell phone to take a photo, this matter would definitely be spread out. This made her heart surge with endless killing intent. "Kill me? With just you?" Xiaoyu stared at Fairy Hua coldly, the bone whip in her hand pointed at her. "This." The surrounding disciples of the immortal sect looked at this scene in astonishment. Fairy Hua had mocked the Dragon Gate, but in the end, she was easily defeated by a girl from the Dragon Gate. Moreover, at this moment, she was lying on the ground, her hair disheveled, and her face was full of bloody scars. The ferocious-looking Fairy Hua was not as beautiful and noble as she usually was, she was like a fairy. "You're courting death. Stop." Yu, who was standing at the side, moved her arm and an earthy yellow spear appeared in her hand. She pointed it at little Yu with a cold face. "Yu, this is the grudge between our Dragon Gate and the Holy Medicine Immortal Sect. Do you want to make a move?" Guan Shuqing and the other girls saw Yu taking out her weapon and asked coldly. "I don't give a damn about your Dragon Gate. Stop right now." Yu shouted at them. In an instant, everyone's expression changed. "You can represent your Yuan clan." Little Yu's expression also turned cold as he asked Yu coldly. "I told you to stop. Little girl, whether I can represent or not, I will teach you a good lesson today." Yu's expression was dark and cold. The long spear in her hand carried a murderous aura as it stabbed towards Little Feather. "Alright, then I don't care whether you can represent me or not." Little Feather's expression did not change. The bone whip in his hand instantly split into more than 10 poisonous snakes that instantly shot towards Yu. "Humph." Yu's face was ice cold as she shook her arm. Earth spikes instantly appeared on the earthen yellow long spear and stabbed towards Little Feather. Boom! Xiaoyu swung his bone whip and the earthen spear collapsed. "What?" Yu's face changed and a look of shock appeared in her eyes. "You said that you could crush all the young disciples of our Dragon Gate by yourself. Initially, I didn't want to argue with you because you are from the Yuan clan. Did you really think that our Dragon Gate is afraid of you?" Xiaoyu's face was cold. Just now, Yu had arrogantly said that she alone could suppress all the disciples of the Dragon Gate. Now, she actually dared to arrogantly say that she didn't care about the Dragon Gate. This made Xiaoyu slightly angry. A fellow who hadn't even reached the half-step immortal god realm still dared to be so arrogant. Pang pang pang. The bone whip in Xiao Yu's hand was like a bone dragon's tentacle, directly attacking towards Yuan Yu. Yuan Yu's expression instantly changed. The long spear in her arm shook and an indestructible earth wall appeared. Crack crack. However, the difference in strength was too big after all. The bone whip directly pierced through and heavily swung towards Yuan Yu's face. Bang! The powerful force caused the handsome Yuan Yu to instantly fly towards the window. Little Feather did not stop and swung the bone whip once again. Yuan Yu's face was filled with shock. A shield that emitted light and traces of an array instantly appeared on the necklace on her chest. Little Feather's bone whip landed on the shield, causing it to not move at all. She frowned and the bone whip in her hand merged into one as she heavily attacked the shield. It did not move at all. Under the terrifying defense, it still did not move at all. This should be the Yuan clan's defensive array. A defensive array that can withstand an immortal god's attack is very precious. Guan Shuqing looked at the indestructible shield and said to Xiao Yu. So it's a turtle shell made by an immortal god. Trash. Now, it's still hiding in this turtle shell and not daring to come out. Xiao Yu looked at Yuan Yu with disdain and said, someone like you. You still have the face to say that you can crush all the disciples of our Dragon Gate? You're quite good at bragging. Hee, a heaven's pride? Yuan Yu's body trembled violently, and his expression was extremely unsightly. Looking at the surrounding disciples of the Immortal Gate looking at him, he had no place to be ashamed. He never would have thought that such a young girl would be able to defeat him so easily. After all, he had the strength of the peak of the infant realm. Looking at Yuan Yu's disdainful expression, he clenched his teeth tightly. He was defeated by a girl, and would end up like Fairy Hua, becoming a laughing stock. A heaven's pride that only knew how to boast. This caused his eyes to be filled with bloodshot, and he wished for nothing more than to cut Little Feather into 1,000 pieces. Just you wait, I won't let you off. Yuan Yu's eyes revealed a crazed killing intent, and she stared at Little Feather with bloodthirsty eyes. Wait? You dare to say such vicious words just because you're hiding in a turtle shell? I thought the Yuan clan was so strong, but I didn't expect the Yuan clan to have such a useless existence. Little Yu stared at Yuan Yu without the slightest bit of fear. You! When Yuan Yu heard this, she almost vomited blood. He had just said that he could crush everyone in the Dragon Gate, but in the end, he was instantly slapped in the face by a girl from the Dragon Gate. This made him feel his entire body burn. If he continued to argue with this girl, then he, Yuan Yu, would lose even more face. I, Yuan Yu, will remember what happened today. Very soon, I will make you pay a heavy price for what happened today. Yuan Yu's blood-red eyes stared at Little Yu. With an embarrassed expression, she walked to Fairy Hua's side and helped her up. Just you wait, just you wait. Tomorrow will be your doomsday. Fairy Hua was so angry that she almost went mad. Her chest kept rising and falling as she shouted at Little Yu. Then we'll see tomorrow. Little Yu raised his head slightly and looked coldly at Fairy Hua and Yuan Yu, who were in a sorry state. Go! The two of them walked out gloomily. The 4 men and women who were at a loss hurriedly followed them. What a killjoy! Little Yu watched them leave and said impatiently. Xiao Yu, you beat up the current prodigy of the Yuan clan. Will the Yuan clan? Do you want to tell your brother? Feng Lingtian frowned and said worriedly. Don't worry. This is already giving the Yuan clan face. Guan Shuqing said with a twinkle in her eyes. That's right. If the Yuan clan doesn't discipline their own disciples, then we will help them discipline them. Lan Qingyue echoed from the side. Just now, Yuan Yu had slandered the Dragon Gate. If it wasn't for Little Yu, they would have taken action. As for the price, that would depend on how the Yuan clan would react. Even if it was a reaction, they would be able to accept it. Bring it back and eat it. Guan Shuqing hesitated for a moment and said. A few girls nodded in agreement. Around them, a group of immortal sect disciples looked on in astonishment. Things seemed to be getting bigger. Chapter 781, was fearless. A girl from the Dragon Gate defeated Fairy Hua and Yuanyu in the God of Cooking restaurant. Fairy Hua was humiliated and Yuanyu was defeated. The one who made the move was a girl from the Dragon Gate. The pathetic beauty Fairy Hua and the heaven's favorite Yuanyu were easily defeated by a girl from the Dragon Gate. Fairy Hua and Yuanyu claimed that the disciples of the Dragon Gate were trash. In the end, they were severely humiliated by a girl from the Dragon Gate. A girl from the Dragon Gate humiliated Yuanyu. Could it be that the Dragon Gate is going to make an enemy out of the Yuan clan? The Dragon Gate has brought this upon themselves. First, they made an enemy out of the Holy Medicine Holy Doctor, and now they are provoking the Yuan clan. On the first day of the grand competition, while the Jianghu was still discussing the matter of the Dragon Gate making an enemy out of the Holy Medicine Immortal sect, another explosive news suddenly appeared on the internet. On the Jianghu internet, not only were there posts, there were also several pictures of Fairy Hua and Yuanyu in a sorry state. Especially Fairy Hua, her face was covered in blood and she was lying on the ground, not having the grace of a fairy at all. Looking at the pictures and the posts, everyone had shocked expressions on their faces. This Fairy Hua was too miserable and Yuanyu was also in a sorry state. However, seeing the miserable state of the two, many people were shocked. A girl from the Dragon Gate could easily defeat Fairy Hua and Yuanyu. Fairy Hua was in the infant realm and might not be very strong among the infant realm, but Yuanyu was a heaven's favorite who entered the finals today. And with his strength, he was basically on the 21st heaven's favorite list. In the end, he was actually defeated by an unknown girl from the Dragon Gate. Moreover, she didn't even have the strength to resist. This caused everyone to be extremely shocked. This face-smacking is too miserable. In the God of Cooking restaurant, they said that the Dragon Gate was inferior to them. Yuanyu even said that she alone could crush all the young disciples of the Dragon Gate. In the end, she was instantly smacked in the face. Fairy Hua was in a sorry state. Yuanyu was smacked in the face like this. Will the Yuan clan react? Will they become enemies with the Dragon Gate? That girl is the sister of the Dragon King. Her strength is very terrifying. She is at least at the half-step immortal god level. Following that, 3 replies that were more popular were pushed up. The miserable Fairy Hua and Yuanyu. Will the Yuan clan stand up for Yuanyu, the younger sister of the Dragon King? This incident made the Heaven's Pride competition even more interesting. And the battle tomorrow was even more exciting. Brother, that pair of bastards Yuanyu and Fairy Hua are really annoying. On the guest reception peak of the Shenyuan clan, Wang Xian and Xiao Yu were sitting in front of a table. Xiao Yu said to him angrily, "Yuanyu." Wang Xian smiled. "If they don't offend me, we won't offend them. If they offend us, don't hold back. They still dare to spout such arrogant words. I alone can teach them a lesson. If the people from the Yuan clan dare to cause trouble, I will teach them a good lesson in the Heaven's Pride competition tomorrow." Xiao Yu pouted and said unhappily, "There's no need for you to do anything. The Golden Swordfish clan will be here tomorrow. Let's eat. All of you can enjoy yourselves here." Wang Xian smiled. He wasn't too concerned about the matter with Yuanyu. Night fell very quickly. The Jianghu internet was still bustling with activity as they discussed what happened today. When the bell rang the next day, one by one, the immortal sects flew towards the arena. Wang Xian, Guan Shuqing, and the rest of the members of the Dragon Gate also flew towards the spectator stand. When they arrived, they instantly felt the gazes of the crowd. The group of immortal sect disciples stared at the members of the Dragon Gate with curiosity as they swept their gaze over Xiao Yu. The fact that Xiao Yu defeated Yuanyu yesterday shocked many people. Many people guessed that the person who went up to the arena to duel with the Holy Medicine Holy Doctor Immortal sect was most likely the girl from yesterday. because it seemed that only that girl in the Dragon Gate had the strength to do so. Brother, it's that girl, it's her. At this moment, in front of the Yuan clan's platform, Yuan Yu's face was filled with anger as she looked at little Yu in the distance. She gritted her teeth and said, "You can't even defeat a girl. You were forced to use up the defensive array that father spent a lot of money to build for us. You're really embarrassing." Beside Yuan Yu, a thin youth coldly glanced at his younger brother. She's very strong, Yuan Yu lowered her head with an embarrassed expression, her clenched fists filled with fury. "Alright, since she dared to hurt you, I'll naturally teach her a good lesson. Don't say that you're my younger brother, but if you dare not give face to my Yuan clan, I'll let everyone know the consequences." As the thin and weak youth spoke, a trace of coldness flashed in his eyes. Their words were not concealed at all, and the few immortal gods from the Yuan clan heard them. Especially a middle-aged immortal god. He glanced at them indifferently and did not say anything, with a smile on his face. Regarding the fact that the second most outstanding disciple of the immortal sect was defeated by the girl from the Dragon Gate last night, they were not the least bit affected. They would not order their disciples to make a move, nor would they stop them from doing so. Everything would be settled by the disciples of the immortal sect themselves. However, they were very supportive of the disciples of the immortal sect taking revenge. As the top existence of the 20 immortal sects, the disciples of the immortal sect should have been able to get back at them for humiliating them. No matter who the other party was, this was the dominance of their Yuan clan. The Holy Medicine Immortal sect was not afraid of the Dragon Gate, and they were even more fearless. One by one, the immortal sects arrived, and the 22 platforms filled with itinerant cultivators. The immortal gods of the Holy Medicine Immortal sect and the sect masters of the two immortal sects slowly stood up and looked coldly in the direction of the Dragon Gate. Holy Medicine Immortal sect, disciples of the Holy Medicine Immortal sect, step forward. It's the sect master. In an instant, 10 youths of the Holy Medicine Immortal sect stood in front. Hua Gujiang was in the center. The 10 elite disciples of the two great immortal sects had the lowest strength of the infant realm. They raised their heads and looked in the direction of the Dragon Gate. Their eyes were filled with provocation and fighting spirit. Disciples of the Dragon Gate, come out and fight. Today, our Holy Medicine Immortal sect will kill all the elite disciples of your Dragon Gate. Come out and die. Hua Gujiang waved his arm and a 2-meter-long dark green staff appeared in his hand. He pointed it directly in the direction of the Dragon Gate. It was extremely domineering. 2 minutes. Ao Jian sat beside Wang Xian. He looked into the distance and said faintly, "Then, before that, let me do it first." Just as Wang Xian finished his words, a thin voice flew down from the Yuan clan's platform. He landed on the stage in the middle. The ground was slightly distorted under the control of the earth elemental energy. He turned his head and stared at Xiao Yu coldly. There was no expression on his face. "How dare you insult my younger brother? You don't put the Yuan clan in your eyes. Come down. I want you to kneel down and apologize. Otherwise, you will die." Chapter 782, One Sword, Two Swords, Extermination. Domineering. Whether it was the disciples of the Holy Medicine Immortal sect, or the Yuan clan's Yuan Hua, everyone stared in the direction of the Dragon Gate with a domineering air. Their eyes were filled with ice-cold battle intent. In particular, Yuan Hua's appearance shocked everyone. I really didn't expect that Yuan Hua would actually stand up for his younger brother. His younger brother was humiliated last night, and now he has become a laughingstock in the Jianghu. He is known as the arrogant heaven's favorite, and even the Yuan clan has been ridiculed. Yuan Hua naturally wants to get back at them. However, you see, the immortal gods of the Yuan clan didn't stop him, because the Yuan clan doesn't think that a Dragon Gate can contend with them. A weak immortal gate provoking a powerful immortal gate, the consequences are obvious. Now, the Dragon Gate is going to be attacked from behind. Now that the Yuan clan wants to get back at them, the Dragon Gate will definitely be embarrassed in front of all the immortal sects. All the disciples of the immortal sects looked at this scene in shock. Humph. Xiao Yu looked embarrassed when she saw Yu Wenhua pointing at her. She immediately stood up and glared at Yu Wenhua angrily. Xiao Yu, sit down. Wang Xian's eyes were filled with killing intent. He looked at the group of Dragon Palace members who were flying over with a cold expression. Get down. When Yu Wenhua saw Xiao Yu sitting down again, he narrowed his eyes slightly and said coldly. Everyone held their breaths and looked at her in shock. Yu Wenhua was qualified to fight for the first place in this competition. That girl, the sister of the Dragon King, was not a match for Yu Wenhua. They wanted to see how the Dragon King would react. Would he admit defeat and apologize? The entire arena watched this scene in silence. Dragon King. Dragon King. However, at this moment, a steady voice came from afar. The voice resounded throughout the entire arena. Wang Xian stood up slowly and looked at the Holy Doctor, Holy Medicine, and Immortal Sect. He shouted in a deep voice, "Get in the arena. It's the Dragon King." A cold and metallic voice rang out. 20 figures flew directly toward the stage. All the disciples of the Immortal Sect were stunned, including all the immortal gods of the Immortal Sect. Some of the immortal gods of the Immortal Sect even stood up abruptly and looked at the sky with solemn faces. In the sky, 20 young men with cold faces and golden longswords in their hands flew toward the stage. There were 2 other people standing there. No, it should be said that there was a strange old man with a turtle shell on his back and a monkey-like demonic monkey. The 2 of them stood in the air as a terrifying energy churned within their bodies. Black demonic chi that seemed to have substance. Earth energy that was as thick as the earth. 2 immortal gods. These were 2 immortal gods. Everyone was shocked, and the disciples of the Immortal Sect revealed expressions of shock. The strength of these 2 immortals was definitely not something that an ordinary lower-level immortal could compare to. They wondered if they had reached the level of a middle-level immortal. Wang Xian waved his hand. Prime Minister Gui and Ao Qitian moved and left immediately. His gaze swept across the area below him. He looked at the group of 20 golden swordfish people on the arena and turned to look at Yu Wenhua. After the disciples of the Dragon Sect have killed the disciples of the Holy Medicine and Holy Medicine Sect, I will come and kill you. Wang Xian said expressionlessly. He looked in the direction of the Holy Doctor and Holy Medicine Immortal Sect and said, there are 20 disciples of the Dragon Gate. If you don't have enough people, I can withdraw some of them. If you have enough people, then let's begin. A life and death battle will not end until one of you is dead. Hiss. Upon hearing Wang Xian's voice, all the disciples of the Immortal Sect around sucked in a breath of cold air. Their eyes were sparkling as they looked at the 20 young men standing in the arena with swords in their hands. First, they killed the disciples of the Holy Medicine Sect. Chapter 783, 1 Sword, 2 Swords, Extermination. The life and death battle between the disciples of the Dragon Gate and the Holy Medicine Immortal Sect. At the beginning, no one was optimistic about the Dragon Gate. However, 2 immortal gods suddenly appeared and led a group of young people over. This scene made many people feel that the Dragon Gate was not as weak as they had imagined. However, looking at the 20 heaven's chosen disciples who were competing with each other, most of the disciples of the Immortal Sect were still optimistic about the Holy Medicine Immortal Sect. After all, Hua Gujiang was a half-step immortal god monster. One half-step immortal god could deal with at least 10 infant realm experts. At present, only 4 heavens chosen of the immortal sects were half-step immortal gods. These were the most outstanding disciples who were nurtured by the immortal sects with their enormous resources. Only the top few immortal gods could nurture such heavens chosen and outstanding talents. Even if the Dragon Gate is defeated, with the Dragon Gate's foundation, it's enough to make most immortal sects fear it. Even the top few immortal sects fear it. Some immortal sect disciples thought to themselves, "Ha, go to hell, wood cremation. At this moment, Hua Gujiang waved his arm, and drops of green seeds fell to the ground. Thorns crazily burrowed out of the ground. The 5 fire element disciples tapped their scepters, and the thorns were instantly covered in flames. In an instant, the terrifying flaming thorns attacked the 10 golden swordfish. The battle was about to start. The terrifying attacks instantly covered the entire arena. In an instant, the arena was filled with the terrifying flaming thorns. The arena within a few kilometers was completely covered. One could imagine how terrifying the power was. The holy medicine immortal sect's attack instantly caused all the disciples of the immortal sect to reveal shocked expressions. Even Xianyuan Fengyi of the Xianyuan clan and Yu Wenhua of the Yuan clan watched with solemn expressions. One sword. However, at this moment, an emotionless voice sounded from within the arena. One sword. The 10 golden swordfish let out a soft cry at the same time. With one sword, a resplendent golden sword light directly slashed forward. This was especially true for the attacks of the 5 golden swordfish in the center. Each sword was 1,000 meters long and dozens of meters wide. The aura of a half-step immortal god instantly exploded out. Boom! 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 A terrifying sword light swept out. There was nothing fancy about it, only one sword. What? The instant the sword light condensed, all the immortal gods of the holy medicine immortal sect quickly stood up, their faces revealing an embarrassed expression. A low roar resounded throughout the entire arena. What's going on? Seeing the immortal gods of the holy medicine immortal sect stand up with embarrassed expressions on their faces, all the disciples of the immortal sect revealed shocked expressions. 5 half-step immortal gods. An immortal god from the Xianyuan clan said in a deep voice as his eyes sparkled. Boom! 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 Under everyone's astonished gazes, the sword light that could easily crush a dead branch met with the flaming thorns. The terrifying flaming thorns were like fireworks as they emitted a flash of light on the stage. Soon after, they were drowned by the terrifying sword radiance. It was so overwhelming that there was no way to block it at all. The flames and thorns disappeared at a terrifying speed. Block! Block! Hua Gujiang's shocked voice rang out on the stage. His eyes widened as a look of disbelief appeared in his eyes. The emerald scepter in his hand emitted a dazzling green light. If you don't die with one strike, then one more strike. The cold voice sounded again, like a curse that could kill. The disciples of the Saint Medicine Immortal sect, who had just blocked the sword light, had a terrified look in their eyes. There were 5 half-step immortal gods, and the opponent had 5 half-step immortal gods. This was a fucking unequal combat power. The opponent only had one person and one sword, and they had already used all their strength to block. If one more strike came, everyone's eyes revealed a terrified expression. Even Hua Gujiang, who had arrogantly and domineeringly stared at the position of the Dragon Gate and demanded a battle, felt his heart tremble. His forehead was filled with cold sweat. I can't block it, I can't block it. A terrifying sword light once again formed. A young man from the Saint Medicine Immortal sect shouted out in fear with eyes filled with fear. The other 8 infant realm disciples also had despair on their faces. They had used up all of their strength just now. If they attacked again, they wouldn't be able to defend at all. Even the sword light attack from the 5 infant realm young swordsmen made their hearts palpitate, not to mention the 5 half-step immortal gods. Run! A young heaven's favorite's eyes flashed with panic. Under the shocked gazes of all the disciples of the immortal sects, he turned around and ran out of the arena. Fuck, run! This is too embarrassing. All the immortal sects are watching, and he's actually running away. If he doesn't run, he'll definitely die. This disciple of the Saint Medicine Immortal sect has completely collapsed. The gap is too big. 5 half-step immortal gods. There are 5 of them. Even the powerful Xianyuan clan only managed to nurture one half-step immortal god, Xianyuan Fengyi, among the younger generation. Furthermore, Xianyuan Fengyi has a high chance of becoming an immortal god. How can the Dragon Gate be so powerful? All the disciples of the Immortal Gate had shocked expressions on their faces. Awe! Screams of pain rang out in the arena. The disciple who had just escaped had just flown out of the arena's enchantment when he heard the sounds behind him. Immediately, his scalp went numb, and his eyes were filled with terror as he flew toward the Holy Medicine Immortal Gate with all his might. Can you escape? At this moment, a cold voice rang out. Terrifying sword rays pierced through the young man's chest, causing his eyes to widen as his corpse fell towards the ground. At this moment, traces of sword rays were left behind on the sturdy stage. At the edge of the stage, Hua Gujiang was half squatting on the ground. His emerald green staff was emitting a dazzling light as a green circle surrounded him. He was panting heavily, and his eyes were filled with fear. A dense energy entered his chest from the staff of the artifact of the immortal god. The defense of this green circle came from a treasure on his chest. As the most powerful disciple of the Holy Medicine sect and the disciple with the most terrifying talent, he had a life-saving method. Unless the immortal god made a move, he could not break the defense on his chest. As for the other disciples of the Holy Medicine Immortal sect, they had already died under that terrifying sword light. There was only one sword. If one sword did not die, then there would be one more sword. 2 swords, just 2 swords. The domineering and confident Holy Medicine Immortal sect only had one disciple who survived, while the other disciples were all killed. This result made everyone feel incredulous. Not only did the Holy Medicine Immortal sect not win, they were all instantly killed. Chapter 784, Continued to Fight. Hiss! Seeing Hua Gujiang squatting on the ground, all the immortal sects were shocked. A complete defeat. A complete defeat. A complete crushing. My God, it's unbelievable. The entire arena was silent. Everyone had no idea what to say. Everyone stared at the arena with their mouths agape. The immortals and deities of the Holy Medicine Immortal sect were slightly trembling. Their eyes were slightly red as they stared at the arena below. 9 young prodigies and 9 nascent realm cultivators. Although the deaths of 9 nascent realm cultivators couldn't hurt them at all, they were the most outstanding disciples of this generation. Especially on the arena. They were instantly killed by the Dragon Gate in front of everyone's eyes. To the 2 immortal sects of the Holy Medicine, this was simply a slap in the face. Clap, clap, clap. At this moment, on the arena, 10 golden swordfish slowly walked toward Hua Gujiang, who was surrounded by green energy. Their eyes were filled with cold killing intent. It's a battle of life and death. They are going to kill Hua Gujiang. The defense on Hua Gujiang's body can withstand the full force attack of an immortal god. It's very difficult to break through it. Hua Gujiang is the future immortal god that the 2 immortal sects, Holy Medicine and Holy Medicine, are most focused on nurturing. How can the 2 immortal sects just watch him be killed? The surrounding disciples of the Holy Medicine sect looked at the group of golden swordfish that were walking over and started discussing softly. The group of immortal gods from the Holy Medicine sect and the Holy Medicine sect also looked at him with an awkward expression. Phew! The green-robed elder took a deep breath and looked at Wang Xian. We, the Holy Medicine sect and the Holy Medicine sect, admit defeat. We admit defeat. Even if we don't admit defeat, we have already lost. The Holy Medicine sect and the Holy Medicine sect are completely defeated. This is really out of everyone's expectations. When everyone around heard this, they muttered to themselves. How can we admit defeat in a life-and-death battle? Wang Xian stared at them with an expressionless face and said in a mocking tone. Dragon King, we will give up after killing 9 of our outstanding disciples. The competition is over. The green-robed elder said in a low voice with an embarrassed expression. There's still one more. It will be over soon. Wang Xian revealed a smile as he looked down calmly. Boom! 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 As if they were responding to Wang Xian, 10 golden swordfish raised the golden longswords in their hands and slashed at Hua Gujiang's rain shield. Dragon King, don't go too far. I'm warning you. A cold light shot out from the green-robed elder's eyes as he pointed at Wang Xian. Ha, since you dare to fight to the death, let's fight to the death. If you don't dare, why are you spouting nonsense? Is this the immortal sect that has been passed down for thousands of years? Today, so what if I, the dragon sect, kill the 2 disciples of your immortal sect? Wang Xian laughed out loud and stared at the green-robed elder with a cold expression. He did not show any signs of weakness. So what if he killed him? When he said this, everyone was shocked. Dragon King is indeed the Dragon King. If you dare to provoke him, you will have to pay a heavy price. All the immortal sect disciples and even the immortal gods stared at Wang Xian with flickering eyes. The Grand Elder and sect master of the Hunyuan immortal sect had initially wanted to take revenge. Now that they saw how domineering Wang Xian was, their expressions kept changing. They were considering whether they should make an enemy out of this kind of person. Haha, good, good. Dragon King, very good. Today, our holy medicine holy doctor celestial sect will remember that we have a long future ahead of us. Just as you said, in the near future, there will only be one between us. The eyes of the green-robed elder were filled with frost. His cold killing intent was not concealed at all. Repeating what I said is very boring. Wang Xian stared at the green-robed elder without showing any signs of weakness. No, no. Hua Gujiang's terrified voice was heard from the arena below. Everyone quickly looked over. At this moment, the defense on Hua Gujiang's body was actually showing signs of cracking. Under the continuous attacks of 5 half-step immortal gods and 5 infant stage powerhouses, the terrifying defensive power was actually slowly cracking. Hua Gujiang, who was on the arena, revealed a look of fear in his eyes. He might not feel fear after being killed in an instant, but now that he was slowly walking towards death, this was even more terrifying. The immortal gods of the Holy Medicine and Holy Medicine sect looked over, their eyes extremely cold. I'll definitely make you pay back tenfold for today's matter. The sect leaders of the 2 great immortal sects said with a cold expression. Ah! A blood-curdling scream represented the end of the life and death battle between the Dragon sect and the Holy Medicine and Holy Medicine sect. 10 of the most outstanding disciples of the Holy Doctor and Holy Medicine sect were killed. Hua Gujiang, who had a high chance of obtaining the first place in this competition, was killed. Everyone could hear the conversation between the 2 immortal sects and the Dragon King clearly. This made everyone have a premonition that the Dragon sect and the 2 immortal sects would become enemies completely. It was to the extent that they were going to kill each other. This made all the disciples of the immortal sects feel the confidence and fearlessness of the Dragon King. So what if he challenged the 2 immortal sects? Leave one of the strongest ones behind. At this moment, Wang Xian's voice reverberated through the entire battleground once again. All the disciples and immortals of the celestial sect were slightly shocked. They looked at Wang Xian in astonishment. It's the Dragon King. On the stage, the 9 golden swordfish nodded their heads. Their bodies moved and they flew toward the stage of the Dragon Gate. Please give us your instructions, Dragon King. The last golden swordfish asked Wang Xian respectfully. Continue, fight. Wang Xian looked in the direction of the Yuan clan expressionlessly and said indifferently, let's begin. Let's see if the Dragon Gate disciple dies or if you die. It's the Dragon King. The golden swordfish accepted the challenge. With a wave of its arm, it pointed in the direction of the Yuan clan. Its face was cold and emotionless. With a resounding voice, it said, come and fight. You die or I die. You die or I die. The emotionless voice resounded throughout the entire battleground. The long sword of the Dragon Gate disciple pointed straight at the Yuan clan. Just like not long ago, the Yuan clan's Yuan Hua pointed his weapon straight at the Yuan clan and challenged them to a battle. However, this time, it was the Dragon Gate's side. Moreover, it was a battle that would not end until one of them died. A half-step immortal god inviting another half-step immortal god to a battle that would not end until one of them died. It had to be said that this was an extremely terrifying thing. No half-step immortal god dared to invite another half-step immortal god of the same level down the arena to fight to the death. No one wanted to die. But now, the half-step immortal god disciple of the Dragon Gate had directly invited Yuan Hua of the Yuan clan to fight. Everyone couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. They didn't expect that after the disciple of the Dragon King killed the holy doctor and holy medicine disciple, he would really kill Yuan Hua again, as he said. Doing so would undoubtedly anger the Yuan clan. But the Dragon King was still the Dragon King, a strong enemy. So what? At this time, Yuan Hua, who was on the Yuan clan's stage, saw the golden swordfish pointing straight at him. Hearing his words, his face changed slightly and his pupils could not help but shrink. Not only Yuan Hua, but all the disciples of the Yuan clan, as well as the immortals and gods, also changed their faces. Chapter 785, Continued to Fight. Hiss, a fight to the death. A fight to the death? That disciple of the Dragon Gate wants to fight to the death? This. His cold face and emotionless voice. A fight to the death. This young swordsman is so terrifying. Now, does Yuan Hua dare to fight to the death with him? If Yuan Hua doesn't make a move, then the entire Yuan clan will lose a lot of face. Especially just now, Yuan Hua pointed at the Dragon King's sister and told him to get down, or else he would kneel down and apologize. All the disciples of the Immortal sect looked at this scene in shock. They looked at the platform of the Yuan clan, waiting for their response. At this moment, Yuan Hua's face kept changing. He stared at the golden swordfish on the ring with a gloomy face. He really did not dare to engage in a life-and-death battle. Especially when he was facing an expert who was also at the peak of half-step immortal god realm. He did not dare to guarantee that he would win. And once he lost, what awaited him was death. As the most outstanding Heaven's Pride disciple of the Yuan clan, as the most dazzling young expert in the pugilistic world, he did not dare to gamble. He did not dare to use his own life to fight in an arena battle. If you don't dare, kneel down and apologize. Xiao Yu saw the changing expression of Yuan Hua on the Yuan clan's platform and felt very relieved. He said with slight ridicule. Kneel down and apologize. This was what Yuan Hua said to Xiao Yu towards the Dragon Gate not long ago. If he did not dare, then kneel down and apologize. But now, Xiao Yu returned this sentence to him. Yuan Hua almost vomited blood when he heard Xiao Yu's words. He stared at him with slightly red eyes and his body trembled slightly. The immortals and gods of the Yuan clan also looked extremely embarrassed. This doesn't give the Yuan clan a way out at all. He doesn't put the Yuan clan in his eyes at all. He is simply offending them to the death. The Dragon King really has no scruples. The group of disciples from the immortal sects exclaimed in their hearts as they watched. Dragon King, let's spar normally. When the Grand Elder of the Yuan clan saw this scene, he looked at Yuan Hua and sighed in his heart. He said faintly. Your Yuan clan's disciple was taught a lesson for speaking without restraint. Now, another disciple has come to provoke us. Why are you cowardly now? If you don't have the strength, don't be so arrogant. Wang Xian looked at the Supreme Elder of the Yuan clan and said expressionlessly. Wang Xian's words made all the immortal sects of the Yuan clan turn pale instantly. An immortal who looked similar to Yuan Hua had a cold look in his eyes. He opened his mouth and was about to speak when the Supreme Elder waved his hand. Let's spar normally. If Yuan Hua loses, we will compensate him with a level 2 formation. How about that? The Grand Elder of the Yuan clan said to Wang Xian. Grade 2 formation. Wang Xian raised his eyebrows. Currently, the Dragon Palace needed 10 Grade 2 formations to upgrade to Grade 2. Grade 2 formations were very important to him. Moreover, the Yuan clan had already regressed. If they did not relent, they might completely offend the Yuan clan. Although Wang Xian was not afraid of the Yuan clan, there was no need to provoke such a strong enemy. Sure. Wang Xian nodded his head. Whoosh! I will definitely defeat you today. On the platform of the Yuan clan, Yu Wenhua flew off the stage with an embarrassed expression. He stared at the golden swordfish with a cold expression. However, Yu Wenhua's cold voice sounded extremely weak in the eyes of all the surrounding disciples of the Immortal sect. Just now, others had invited him for a life-and-death battle, but he didn't agree. Now, he was just trying to hide his cowardice. Please enlighten me. The golden swordfish's ice-cold long sword pointed straight at Yu Wenhua. Enlighten me. Facing the golden swordfish, he didn't dare to be careless. With a gloomy face, he moved his arm. A yellow shield appeared in his left hand, and a knight's sword appeared in his right hand. A shield and a sword were the most suitable for Earth Elemental cultivators. Earth Elemental cultivators were best at defense. Traceless sword. The long sword in the golden swordfish's hand instantly moved. The swordsmanship of the golden swordfish clan all came from Ao Jian, which could be said to be the same lineage as Ao Jian. The heartless sword principle focused on killing. The moment he attacked, an invisible long sword directly attacked Yu Wenhua. I'll definitely defeat you today. Yu Wenhua's eyes lit up. He raised the shield in his hand, and the traceless sword landed on the shield. The earthen yellow mist on the shield dispersed and blocked it. Earth-shattering. The earthen yellow knight's sword in his hand swung forward, and a crack instantly appeared on the entire arena as he attacked the golden swordfish. Traceless, slash! The golden swordfish leaped into the air as terrifying metal swords were shot out. The terrifying sword radiance emitted a boundless radiance. The entire arena was instantly covered in gold. Slash! All the golden radiance condensed into tiny metal swords as they fell towards Yu Wenhua. Sky high. Yu Wenhua's expression changed slightly as he raised the knight's sword and shield in his hand. An khaki-colored defense appeared around him. Boom boom boom. The terrifying sword light directly pierced through the earthen yellow defense. When the continuous attacks landed on his defense, his expression changed drastically. Sigh. Heartless sword, although it's just a superficial attack, its attack power is also very terrifying. This child, among the same level, his attack power is unparalleled. On the Yuan clan's platform, the Grand Elder looked at the short exchange of blows on the stage and shook his head slightly. The other immortals and deities also had ugly expressions, especially one of the middle-aged immortals and deities. Our Yuan clan's defense is very strong, especially when combined with the formation. Although our attack power can't compare to the explosive attributes of fire, metal, and lightning, it's not bad either. It's a combination of offense and defense. However, faced with such a violent merciless sword, little Hua is simply unable to win. An elderly immortal god's eyes flickered as he spoke. The supreme elder of the Yuan clan nodded in agreement. Ruthless sword. 1,000 years ago, the strongest sword immortal, the immortal slayer Daoist, used the power of the ruthless sword Dao to suppress the entire Jianghu. No one was able to receive his sword. From then on, the ruthless sword was the #1 killing sword. It was incomparably terrifying. However, to cultivate the ruthless sword, one needed to forget, sever, and be ruthless. Emotionless, 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 and merciless. This was a kind of realm, and it was not a clever attack. However, this realm was very terrifying. It would unleash the sharpest attacks, the deadliest attacks, and the most accurate attacks. In the past, after the immortal slayer Daoist had forgotten his feelings, in order to pursue the Tao of the Sword, he had killed his family and almost destroyed the entire Immortal sect. Since then, the Immortal Slayer Tao had declined a lot. In just a few moves, the Yuan clan knew that their disciples were going to be defeated. Chapter 786. The first session of the Prodigy Tournament came to an end. Suppression. This suppression is a little obvious. This disciple of the Dragon Gate's attacks are so terrifying. The golden longswords are endless, and they can accurately strike in every direction. It's too terrifying. The young swordsman in the battle is like an ice-cold machine. His attacks are simply too sharp. When he was suppressing the Holy Doctor Holy Medicine Immortal sect just now, he couldn't see anything. Now, he's simply too strong. Fortunately, Yu Wenhua didn't agree to the life and death battle just now. Otherwise, he wouldn't have had a chance to win at all. The group of Immortal sect disciples looked at the battle on the arena below. This battle was somewhat out of many people's expectations. Yu Wenhua was originally a Heaven's Pride expert who was qualified to fight for the first place this time, but now, he was completely powerless against a young swordsman. He could only use his strong earth attribute defense to block the attacks time and time again. As disciples of the Immortal sect with such a status, each of them also had their own trump cards. Yu Wenhua's trump card was a type of defense, an extremely terrifying defense. But under the attacks of the golden swordfish, there was no chance of winning. All the disciples of the Immortal sect could see it, let alone the immortal gods. On the arena, Yu Wenhua's face was extremely pale. His arms trembled slightly from the repeated attacks. On the contrary, the golden swordfish standing in the air launched powerful attacks without any expression on its face. On the surrounding platforms, the Heavens Chosen of the Immortal sect standing at the front watched the golden swordfish's attacks with extremely grave expressions. Even Shenyuan Fengyi of the Shenyuan clan and a burly young man of the Wild Beast Immortal sect watched with flickering eyes. Even if it was them, they didn't have absolute confidence in winning against this terrifying young swordsman. In fact, they might even lose. This caused the expressions of all the Heaven's favorites from the Immortal sects to turn ugly. Caw. At this moment, a crack appeared on Yu Wenhua's defense from below, causing his face to turn pale. You're not my match. The golden swordfish glanced at the cracked defense and didn't continue to attack. Its body moved and it directly flew towards the Dragon Gate platform. Hoo. Yu Wenhua panted heavily and his pale face slowly recovered. He did not say anything, nor did he say anything fierce. His body moved and he flew towards the Yuan clan's platform. He could feel that the gap between him and the young swordsman of Dragon Gate was very big. He was not a match for him. He was completely not a match for him. This was a complete suppression of his strength. The disciples of the Dragon Gate are truly outstanding talents. Our Yuan clan has admitted defeat. Level 2 Formation, Mingqing Formation. The Supreme Elder of the Yuan clan had no expression on his face. He waved his arm and 4 formation compasses flew towards Wang Xian. Thank you for letting me win. Wang Xian smiled faintly. His gaze swept across the formation compasses and a faint smile appeared on his face. Mingqing Array Compass, Level 2 Array Formation. Clear mind. This was a relatively unorthodox auxiliary array formation. Its effect was somewhat similar to the Dragon Field, which could enhance one's comprehension ability. However, in terms of effect, it was dozens of times weaker than the Dragon Field's ability. However, it was still a level 2 array formation. Wang Xian's face was full of smiles. He sat there and swept his gaze across all the immortal sections. He continued to speak indifferently. The disciples of the Dragon sect are not participating in this prodigy tournament. Since the Dragon Gate is not participating, let's continue. The Grand Elder of the Xian Yuan clan took a glance at Wang Xian and spoke to all the immortal sections. The competition continued. 41 Heaven's favorites were competing for 21 spots. However, the following competition made many disciples of the immortal sects feel that there was too much exaggeration in this Heaven's Favorites competition. That was because the Dragon Gate was not participating. The powerful 5 young disciples of the Dragon Gate who were half-step immortal gods would definitely occupy 5 seats. And according to the young swordsmen of half-step immortal gods, the strength of those swordsmen of the infant realm would definitely not be weak. There were even many disciples who guessed that the strength of those young disciples of the infant realm should be able to reach the top 21. However, the Dragon King did not let the disciples of the Dragon Gate participate. The first Heaven's Pride competition was held for 3 days. When the last day was over, the Heaven's Pride ranking came out. First place, Xianyuan Fengyi. Second place, Shou Tian. Third place, Yu Wenhua. Fourth place, Wan Qingyun. The rankings came out one by one. The Xianyuan clan was first, the Mad Beast Immortal Sect disciples were second, the Yuan clan was third, and the True Martial Immortal Academy was fourth. As soon as this information was released, it immediately blew up the entire Jianghu. In the past 2 days, the matter of the prodigy competition had caused a huge sensation on the Jianghu internet. The 10 prodigies of the Holy Medicine Immortal Sect had all been killed by the disciples of the Dragon Gate. Yuan Hua had been defeated by the disciples of the Dragon Gate. These 2 pieces of news caused a sensation on the Jianghu internet the next day, and also shocked all the disciples of the Immortal Sect. When the news spread on the internet that the 2 terrifying immortal gods of the Dragon Gate had brought 20 young disciples, it shocked all the martial artists. This was especially true for the disciples and family members of the Holy Medicine Immortal Sect, as well as those who supported the Holy Medicine Immortal Sect. On the 3rd day, after the Prodigy tournament ended, the rankings were determined, and it shocked the entire Jianghu. The first Prodigy tournament has ended. Looking at the rankings, I really have mixed feelings. If all the disciples of the Dragon Gate were to go on stage, I wonder what the situation would be like. This year's Prodigy tournament is too exaggerated. Xianyuan Fengyi's swordsmanship is very strong, but if that young swordsman from the Dragon Gate goes up, I wonder who will win first place. No one would have thought that under the pressure of the Holy Medicine Immortal Sect, the Dragon Gate would be able to bring out such a terrifying foundation. This time, the Holy Medicine Immortal Sect was too miserable. All the prodigy disciples were completely killed. There were 3 pitiful people in this Heaven's Chosen tournament. The Holy Medicine Immortal Sect, Yu, and Fairy Hua were all courting death. Now, they've been taught a good lesson by the Dragon Gate. They deserve it. One by one, the topics were trending on the Jianghu internet. The performance of the Dragon Gate caused all the disciples of the Immortal Sect to be shocked. And the Holy Medicine Immortal Sect became the laughingstock of this year's Heaven's Chosen tournament. They became the target of ridicule. Initially, they were provoking others, but in the end, they were completely crushed. In this competition, the Holy Medicine Immortal Sect became the biggest loser. As for the Dragon Sect, their reputation soared. Powerful disciples, at least 5 immortals, and terrifying foundations. Even without the existence of ordinary disciples, the Dragon Sect's strength could rank around the 5th among all the immortal sections. However, on the Jianghu internet, many disciples of the Holy Medicine Immortal Sect clamored that they would make the Dragon Sect pay a heavy price. When everyone saw the comments made by the disciples of the 2 great immortal sects, they also became slightly solemn. The strength displayed by the Holy Medicine sects was much stronger than the strength displayed by the Dragon Gate. Moreover, in the disciple competition of the immortal sects, the sect leaders of the 2 great immortal sects had clearly stated that the Dragon Gate would wait. It was possible that the 2 great immortal sects would take revenge at any time. And after the disciple competition, there was another matter that attracted more attention in Jianghu. The Dragon Gate would hold an auction. Chapter 787, Dragon Gate Auction. Dragon Gate Auction. After the end of the grand competition, the Dragon King announced on the spot that an auction would be held. This was the first Dragon Gate auction. 3 days later, it would be held on a floating island in the Bohai Sea. The auction would be held for 1 day. At that time, the main items to be auctioned would be spirit weapons and elixirs. At that time, in this auction, 5 grade 13 spirit weapons, 3 sets of grade 12 spirit weapon sets, grade 7 elixirs, and grade 6 elixirs would be auctioned. Once this news was out, it once again caused the entire immortal sects to be in an uproar. 5 grade 13 spirit weapons, these were weapons used by immortals, and many immortals in the immortal sects didn't have grade 13 spirit weapons to use. The other 3 sets of grade 12 spirit weapon sets also caused many immortal sect disciples to go crazy. Spirit weapon sets, when an ordinary infant realm expert wore this spirit weapon set, they were completely capable of fighting against the Heaven's Favorites ranked on the Heaven's Favorites list. Not to mention those grade 7 medicinal pills and grade 6 medicinal pills. The rarity of grade 7 medicinal pills could shorten the cultivation time of an infant realm expert by a few years or even more than 10 years. Their rarity even surpassed that of a spirit tool. If one could consume grade 7 medicinal pills to increase the cultivation speed, there was a chance of stepping into the immortal god realm in the future. Spirit tools and medicinal pills were extremely precious to martial artists. Other than spirit tools and medicinal pills, there was also the Earth Star Fish, an Earth Star Fish that could increase one's lifespan. An Earth Star Fish could be comparable to a level 6 medicinal pill, a treasure that could increase one's lifespan. At that time, the Earth Star Fish would not be auctioned, but sold directly. It could be exchanged with level 6 medicinal pills and level 7 spiritual herbs. When the news of the Dragon Gate auction came out, the eyes of many immortal sect disciples lit up, filled with anticipation. Many disciples of the immortal sects rushed into Jiang City, waiting for the beginning of the Dragon Gate auction. Dragon Gate, Dragon King. At this time, in the area of Yaoding, Yaoshan was the most majestic mountain peak of Yaoding. The entire mountain peak was covered with green plants. Many plants swayed their branches, swaying without wind, and had their own lives. At the top of Mount Yao, a golden palace was built where the golden plants were. At this moment, 13 middle-aged elders were standing in the palace. In the center of the palace stood an elder. The elder was wearing a red robe and a green robe. This elder didn't appear in the sight of the other immortal sections. In the Yaoding world, there were only 2 immortal sects, the Holy Medicine Sect and the Holy Medicine Sect. Therefore, the other immortal sects didn't know the true strength of the 2 immortal sections. Now, there were 13 immortal gods in the entire palace, a total of 13. This was far beyond the expectations of the other immortal sects in the Jianghu. They only revealed 8 immortal gods, and now there were 5 more. This was terrifying. Moreover, if the people of the immortal sects saw the 2 sect leaders standing respectfully beside the old man in the middle, they would be even more shocked. After all, the sect leaders of the 2 immortal sects had the strength of a middle-level immortal. This meant that this old man was a high-level immortal. As of now, only the Xian Yuan clan, the Yuan clan, and the Wild Beast Immortal sect were known to be high-level immortals. The Dragon Gate doesn't put us 2 immortal sects in their eyes. We can't let this grudge go just like that. It's not just this grudge. There's also the matter of the innate immortal sect. If it weren't for the Dragon King, we could completely monopolize the medicinal pills in the entire Jianghu in the future. Our influence could surpass that of the Xian Yuan clan and the Yuan clan. Also, we can increase the terrifying battle strength of a tree demon, a middle-rank immortal. The 2 leaders of the 2 immortal sects growled in a low voice, their eyes filled with coldness. They had cut off their business and one of their immortal sect's powerful battle strength. Now, they had even killed the 10 most outstanding disciples of their 2 immortal sects, making the 2 immortal sects, Holy Medicine and Holy Doctor, lose face. Not to mention that in the past, the Dragon King had even destroyed the clansmen that they had left behind in the real world. Moreover, They also suspected that the experts of the immortal sects who had been sent out in advance before they appeared in the real world had also been killed by the Dragon King. All kinds of hatred had already become irreconcilable between the two sides. The face of our Holy Medicine and Holy Medicine Immortal sect has been slapped so many times by the Dragon Gate. We absolutely cannot let this matter rest. Otherwise, the immortal sects in the world will think that we two immortal sects are to be trifled with. An old man in a fiery red robe continued to speak in a gloomy tone. That's right. Please give us your orders, Grand Supreme. We must teach this Dragon Gate a good lesson. The immortal gods of the Holy Medicine Immortal sect looked at the old man in the middle and asked with eyes full of anger. The disciples of this Dragon Gate are all in the infant realm. The total number of members is at most 100. The immortal god treaty cannot be violated. The old man's face was full of fat, full of majesty and dominance. His lips moved slightly, and the sound of a loud bell rang out. This is also what we are afraid of. The Dragon Gate has 70 to 80 infant realm experts, and the number of experts is only 20 to 30 less than us. Moreover, they don't have any territory, so it's not easy to deal with them. An immortal god said with a gloomy face. All of the disciples were in the infant realm, so the immortal gate without any territory made it impossible for them to deal with them. No, the Dragon Gate didn't have any territory or property in the past, but according to the information I received, after the auction, the Dragon Gate will open a forging workshop to sell spirit tools and pills, and undertake the refining of spirit tools and pills. The green-robed old man shook his head, and his eyes shone with a bright light. Since he wants to monopolize the refining of medicinal pills and spirit tools in the Jianghu, then we. A middle-aged immortal god's cold lips curled up as he narrowed his eyes slightly. The crime of the Dragon Gate cannot be forgiven. Don't have any scruples. The old man standing in the middle slowly raised his head. The treacherous Spike clan has already established the treacherous Spike clan to carry out assassinations and accept any assassinations. The treacherous Spike clan doesn't have many clansmen either. They are similar to the Dragon Gate. We will pay for them to act. The treacherous Spike clan's assassinations, along with us, will be executed. If they offend our Holy Medicine Holy Doctor Celestial sect, kill them. In the future, we will make it impossible for them to gain a foothold in the martial arts world. The old man's eyes lit up and his voice reverberated throughout the entire hall. Anyone who dares to provoke us will be killed. Yes, Grand Supreme. Killing intent surged in the eyes of the immortals. A terrifying killing intent pervaded the entire hall. Dragon King, the floating island has been reconstructed by the puppet Celestial sect. Do you want to go over and take a look? At this moment, Mo Qinglong said to Wang Xian when he had just returned to Jiang City. Let's go and take a look. There must be no mistakes in the Dragon Gate auction in 3 days. Wang Xian's eyes flickered. Once the auction was successful, it would mean that half of the Dragon Gate forging workshop was successful. Once the forging workshop was on the right track, the layout on land would be completed. By then, he could enter the ocean directly and start to enter the vast ocean, sweeping across the entire ocean. At that time, the Dragon Palace would improve at a terrifying speed. Chapter 788, Dragon Gate Auction 2. Dragon King, look, this is our Dragon Gate auction house. The entire auction house is divided into 3 levels, and it can seat 3,000 people. The equipment inside are all made by the Puppet Immortal sect. Everything is very convenient. In addition, there are 2 shops next to the auction house. One is a spirit tool shop, and the other is a medicinal pill shop. This can also be considered as the main shop of our refining workshop. Dragon King, you need to take out some spiritual weapons and elixirs and place them in the shop. The items placed in the shop must not conflict with the items being auctioned. However, there must be a treasure that can protect the shop. Upon arriving at the floating island, Mo Qinglong introduced the items to Wang Xian. Wang Xian sized up the entire floating island and nodded his head in satisfaction. This island was snatched away by the celestial puppet sect in the beginning. After that, it was sent over obediently. Wang Xian took a liking to the powerful puppet techniques of the celestial puppet sect. They used it to build special houses and items. It was definitely dozens of times better than modern buildings. Hence, Wang Xian gave the celestial puppet sect some rewards and asked them to help build it. The celestial puppet sect was naturally very willing to help. The eastern half of the floating island was built into a Dragon Gate auction house. The western part was built into a place for leisure. In the future, when he went out to sea, he didn't need to use ships anymore. He could directly control the floating island to float. Alright, let me make some preparations. Wang Xian nodded his head. With a move of his body, he circled around the floating island. 3 days passed in an instant. During these 3 days, Wang Xian received a piece of good news. A Jaya had broken through to the immortal realm. Originally, she was in the infant stage. Her body still contained a majestic fire attribute energy that she had yet to digest. After experiencing many fortuitous encounters, she had also taken this step. Wang Xian was not too surprised that a Jaya had entered the immortal stage. Now, Lan Qingyue and Sun Lingxiu could also enter the immortal stage at any time. The same was true for the nine-headed Hui. Next was Ao Shrimps and Ao Nu. In the Dragon Palace, there were at least 4 to 5 other people who could enter the immortal stage at any time. Moreover, after the corpse of an immortal-level aquatic creature was sent back to the Dragon Palace, it would soon be able to give birth to 1 or even 2 immortal gods in the Dragon Palace. Soon, the immortal gods of the Dragon Palace would be close to 20. Is the floating island of the Dragon Gate in front of us? This is the legendary island. The Dragon Gate auction. This time, I want to auction a grade 7 medicinal pill. As long as I have this grade 7 medicinal pill, I will be able to break through to the infant realm. I want to buy an Earth Star fish as a gift for my great-grandfather. Huh. This Dragon Gates auction is simply too grand. It's an immortal-level spirit weapon. 5 of them will be auctioned at once, and there are 3 sets of spirit weapon sets. Dragon Gate is simply too rich. Look, those are the immortal gods and disciples of the natural-born immortal sect. I heard that Dragon Gate and the natural-born immortal sect are cooperating. In the future, Dragon Gate's forging workshop will provide spirit herbs. Those are the leaders of the Ming King Immortal Sect and the Puppet Immortal Sect. There are also immortal gods from the Xian Yuan clan. So many immortal gods are here. 3 days later, in the early morning, the Dragon Gate auction had already caused an uproar on the Jianghu website for the past 3 days. The Dragon Gate auction was the first auction in the history of all the immortal sections. It was also the most grand auction. It was a celestial artifact, a level 12 spirit artifact set, and a level 7 elixir. With such an item, it was enough to attract the attention of the immortals. Furthermore, during these 3 days, the Dragon Gate auction also collected a lot of treasures that were put up for auction. As an auction house, it wasn't just the auction house that auctioned the items themselves. In fact, most of the auction houses only auctioned the items sent by others. Although most of the items in the Dragon Gate auction house were taken out by Wang Xian himself, he had also collected quite a number of high-value items. He would take a certain amount of commission to help them conduct the auction. The precious treasures and 3 days of publicity had attracted all the disciples of the immortal sects and even the immortals. In the morning, there were even many disciples of the immortal sects who came to the floating island. Wang Xian stood beside the entrance of the floating island and looked at the immortals who had entered with a smile. In just half an hour, 7 immortals from the immortal sects had arrived. One could imagine the attraction of the immortal artifacts, spirit chi sets, and grade 7 elixirs. Around them, the members of the Dragon Gate were guarding each and every position to ensure their safety. Ao Jian was also in charge. No one dared to cause trouble here. The floating island was considered the territory of the Dragon Gate, so the immortal god of the Dragon Gate could make a move directly. The two shops next to the auction house can buy pills and spirit tools. Moreover, if you have the materials, you can help forge them for free. 2 sets of metal materials can be used to forge 1 spirit tool, 3 sets of spirit herbs, and 4 pills for you. It's simply too suitable. I heard that in the future, the Dragon Gate will open a forging shop in the real cities next to the major cities of the Immortal Gate. You can buy 5th, 6th, and even 7th grade pills there. The same is true for spirit tools. In addition, you can also bring your own materials. The immortal god of the wild beast Immortals sect led the second-ranked heaven's favorite, Shou Tian, and a dozen disciples into the floating island. A disciple said with a twinkle in his eyes. Their wild beast Immortals sect was very powerful, but they were not very good at alchemy and refining tools. As a result, they were in urgent need of spirit tools and medicinal pills. If it's really at this price, then it's very suitable. This auction will see if there are any spirit tools that are suitable for me. If there aren't, then I can only find materials for the Dragon Gate forging workshop to refine. The tall and sturdy immortal god slowly nodded his head. The earth star fish is sold in that shop. They can be exchanged with medicinal pills and spirit herbs at the same price, or they can be bought with spirit stones. There are a total of 500 of them. It's simply too crazy. The Dragon Gate is simply too rich. No wonder they can nurture so many powerful disciples. With such resources and fewer than 100 disciples, they can naturally nurture many infant realm cultivators. Oh my god, did you hear that? The shop that sells spiritual artifacts has a great 13 spiritual artifact. It's too awesome. They took out a celestial artifact and sold it at a marked price without even auctioning it. Exclamations and exclamations could be heard one after another. Everyone rushed towards the Earth Star Fish shop, the spiritual artifact shop, and the elixir shop. This floating island was simply a treasure trove. Even the eyes of the Celestials were burning with passion. They were itching to snatch it away. Soon, 5,000 to 6,000 people gathered on the floating island. This was because of the requirements set by Wang Xian. If one wanted to enter the floating island, one had to fulfill one of 2 conditions. The first was to possess the strength of at least half-step infant realm. The second condition was to possess 50,000 spirit stones or items worth 50,000 spirit stones. Otherwise, more than 100,000 people or even more would pour into the floating island. After all, the Dragon Gate auction was currently the most grand auction in the pugilistic world, with the highest value of items. After this auction, the resources I will obtain will at least be able to rise to the level of a high-level immortal. At that time, among all the immortal sects, there will be no more than 5 people who can match my fighting strength. Chapter 789, Dragon Gate Auction 3. At 9:30 a.m., 5,000 to 6,000 people crowded around the 3 shops on the floating island. The items from the 3 shops, medicinal pills, spirit tools, and earth star fish, were basically swept clean. The auction house opened punctually at this time, and people swarmed in. There were only 3,000 seats in the auction house, and almost half of the people had to stand at the back. However, many martial artists did not have much objections. After all, 90% of them were not here to auction items, but to watch this grand auction. The immortals had their own private rooms on the 2nd and 3rd floors. Peng, everyone, quiet down. Mo Qinglong stood on the auction stage and shouted softly. He held a hammer in his hand and his voice resonated in everyone's hearts. Wang Xian, Xiao Yu, Guan Shuqing, and the rest of the girls were in a private room on the 3rd floor. They were all looking down with smiles on their faces. A half-step immortal powerhouse was still very intimidating. Sensing Mo Qinglong's faint aura, the entire auction house instantly quieted down. Thank you all for coming to participate in the first auction held by our Dragon Gate auction house. The highest bidder will get the item and can pay with elixirs and spirit stones. Without further ado, the first item to be auctioned is a grade 13 spiritual artifact, the artifact of the immortal. Mo Qinglong waved his arm, and a sharp long sword flew out from behind him. The spiritual sword emitted a dazzling sword light, and the entire sword was incomparably sharp. Some half-step infant realm experts even felt a bone-piercing sword light. It caused fear in their hearts. Hiss! All the auctioneers who came to participate in the auction had shocked expressions on their faces, and all the disciples of the immortal sect who were wielding swords stared at the spiritual sword floating on the auction stage with fervent eyes. It was an immortal artifact, a spirit artifact that even immortals were interested in. It was actually the first one to be put up for auction. Currently, there was no price on the market for the immortal artifact because no one was selling the immortal artifact. The starting price is 800,000 spirit stones, or an equivalent medicinal pill. Mo Qinglong swept his gaze across everyone and said with a smile on his face. 800,000. After hearing this price, everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. 800,000, in terms of the value of the immortal god weapon, it's not very expensive. However, other than the immortal gods, who can afford 800,000? I wonder who will get the first immortal god weapon. Just now, I saw a total of 12 immortal gods enter the private rooms on the second and third floors. An infant stage expert holding an immortal god weapon can compete with a half-step immortal god expert. The disciples of the immortal sect looked at him with burning eyes. 800,000. A young man sitting in the hall raised his hand arrogantly and shouted. 7th place in this Heaven's Pride competition, the descendant of an immortal god of the path of the beheading immortal, he's really too rich. 800,000 spirit stones, my goodness. The disciples of the immortal sect stared at the young man with envious faces. 850,000. At this moment, an old man's voice sounded, shocking everyone in the auction once again. It's the Grand Elder of the upper 9 immortal sects, an existence at the half-step immortal god realm. Everyone looked over and said with sparkling eyes. 900,000. In less than 10 seconds, another voice sounded. All the disciples looked over and saw the G character on his clothes, and their hearts trembled. It was another top-tier expert who was half a step away from the immortal god realm. 100. Everyone was shocked for more than 10 seconds when a dignified voice came from the second floor. The immortal god had made his move. Everyone looked up, their eyes shining. The immortal god's weapon was the most top-tier spirit weapon in the world. There were about 100 known immortal gods in all the immortal sects in the Jianghu. Among the 100 immortals and gods, more than half of them didn't have an artifact of immortals and gods. Only warriors who cultivated the water and fire attributes could refine artifacts. Chapter 790, Superior Immortal. The first celestial artifact was sold at a price of 1.5 million. This price had far exceeded Wang Xian's expectations. At the same time, it also stunned the disciples of the immortal sect in the hall. 1.5 million spirit stones. Such a terrifying amount of spirit stones was enough to create a few infant stage powerhouses. When martial artists cultivated with spirit stones, their cultivation speed was 7 to 8 times faster than usual. With 1.5 million spirit stones, they could definitely create quite a number of infant stage powerhouses. However, the value of an immortal artifact could not be measured in this way. There was a huge difference between an immortal god with an immortal artifact and one without an immortal artifact. The first spirit sword was auctioned off for the first item. It was auctioned off at a terrifying price by the immortal slaying path immortal god. Following that, the value of the second item dropped. It was a grade 6 medicinal pill, a medicinal pill that was very useful to any attribute martial artist. Although the value of a grade 6 medicinal pill was far from what an immortal item could compare to, there were many people competing for it. One bid after another, causing a grade 6 medicinal pill to be sold at the price of 50,000 spirit stones. Following that, one item after another was quickly auctioned off. Every item was fought over by many martial artists. There were a total of 5 to 6,000 martial artists who came, and all of them were relatively strong and had a lot of spirit stones. Each of them could buy a grade 6 medicinal pill. The atmosphere of the auction was extremely heated. Celestial artifacts, spirit artifact sets, and grade 7 elixirs had become the items with the most intense competition in this auction. When the auction reached its climax, the celestial sect disciples' eyes lit up as they shouted out their bids one by one. Wang Xian, who was sitting in a private room on the 3rd floor, revealed a smile on his face. This auction had made a huge profit. Those spirit weapons were refined from the materials that Wang Xian had obtained from the Cauldron of You. There was no cost involved. The materials used to refine the weapons in the Cauldron of You were obviously far superior to those in other worlds. He had obtained a lot of level 13 materials. If these materials were used to refine level 13 celestial artifacts, there would be at least dozens of them. Not to mention, there were even more level 12 materials. Spiritual artifacts have their own accumulated materials. Elixirs have the materials provided by the natural-born celestial sect. In the future, there will be an endless stream of resources coming in. Wang Xian laid on the chair with a satisfied expression. One item after another was auctioned off. When the last celestial artifact was bought by a celestial, the first auction of the Dragon Gate was considered to have ended successfully. A group of celestial sect disciples walked out with excited faces and chatted with each other. Even if the people who came to the auction today were the most elite among the disciples of the Immortal Gate, their eyes were still burning with excitement as they talked about it. It was their first time seeing so many precious items. This trip is really worth it. The items that the Dragon Gate took out for auction this time are too valuable. TSK, it's a pity that I can't afford any of them. FUCK, a dignified infant realm expert, thought that I was very rich, but I didn't expect that I could snatch a grade 7 medicinal pill without snatching anyone else. Look, the spirit tools set was bought by a descendant of an immortal god of the G clan. Now that I'm wearing it, my aura has directly increased by a lot. The next auction will be in 2 months' time. At that time, there will still be immortal god tools. TSK, within these 2 months, I must think of a way to get some spirit stones. I must buy an item that is useful for my cultivation. The immortal sect disciples walked out with some regret. Most of the martial artists left empty-handed. Their eyes were burning with passion as they left. One could not imagine how upset they were. Wang Xian stood on the 3rd floor of the auction house and watched the group of martial artists leave with a smile on his face. Dragon King. At this moment, Mo Qinglong walked into the room and shouted with a smile on his face. Dragon King, we have gained a lot this time. An immortal from the G clan took out 4 grade 8 pills in exchange for a celestial artifact. However, this pill is a little useless. He took out another 500,000 spirit stones to compensate us. In addition, we have obtained a total of 3 million spiritual stones, 50 grade 6 elixirs, and 13 grade 7 elixirs in this auction. As well as all kinds of grade 6, grade 7, and even grade 8 spiritual herbs. Mo Qinglong handed an interspatial ring to Wang Xian. Can the Dragon Gate Forge be open for business tomorrow? Wang Xian took the interspatial ring and asked with a twinkle in his eyes. Yes, Dragon King. Please hand over all the elixirs and spiritual artifacts to me. We will be able to open for business tomorrow. Moreover, we have already publicized the Dragon Gate Forge. There are a total of 8 cities. 8 shops will open for business tomorrow at the same time. Mo Qinglong nodded and said, "All right. Taking advantage of the popularity of the Dragon Gate auction house, we will open for business directly tomorrow. We must ensure the safety of each shop. Send 4 members of the Dragon Gate to guard it." Wang Xian said slowly. "It's the Dragon King. I will deal with it now." Mo Qingyue bowed and walked out immediately. Xiao Xian, once the Dragon Gate forging workshop is set up, our Dragon Palace's strength will be greatly enhanced within half a year. At that time, no other immortal sex will be our match. Lan Qingyue hugged Wang Xian's arm happily. Of course. Wang Xian nodded confidently. Let's go. Let's go to the entertainment area on the other side of the floating island. You guys have fun there. I want to improve my strength. Let's go, let's go. I took a look at the modifications after yesterday. It's too beautiful. The group of girls walked towards another area of the floating island happily. Wang Xian came to one of the villas with an area of 1,000 meters. He took out the pills from his interspatial ring. These pills are enough to increase my dragon energy by 100 to 200 million. Wang Xian's eyes sparkled as he threw the pills into his mouth one by one. Name, Wang Xian. Race, 5 elemental divine dragon, able to transform into a human. Level 9. Dragon energy, 84,000, 3421/100 000000000. Supernatural ability, rule the water tribe that is lower than your own level. Devour living things to extract dragon energy. Control of the 5 elements. Cultivation method, divine dragon transformation. Fire refining technique, use the fire of origin to refine all living things. Water refining technique, use the water refining technique to refine them for fun. Combat skills, water clone, elementary, blade storm, intermediate, instantaneous water, elementary. Roar. On the top floor of the villa, Wang Xian transformed into the body of a divine dragon. The huge amount of dragon energy allowed his body to reach the size of 15 meters. A terrifying awe-inspiring aura emanated from his body. As he felt the strength in his body, a smile appeared on Wang Xian's face. Superior immortal. After consuming all the elixirs, his dragon energy had reached 840 million. He was only 160 million away from completing the transformation. Wang Xian moved his body and transformed back into his human form. He opened his mouth slightly and 3 level 13 dragon pearls appeared in front of him. Fire Dragon Pearl, Wood Dragon Pearl, and Water Dragon Pearl. All of them had reached level 13. One Dragon Pearl alone could rival a lower immortal. I still need 2 more Dragon Pearls. I have to collect them as soon as possible. In addition, with my strength, I can even fight against the 2 Grand Elders of the Xian Yuan clan and the Yuan clan. Chapter 791, Opening Crisis. The first large-scale auction in Jianghu, the Dragon Gate auction, had ended. This auction caused a great sensation on the Jianghu website. There were 12 immortal gods present, and some of them had reached the half-step infant realm, or they had enough spirit stones to enter the venue. The entry requirements for the participation of immortal gods were extremely high, making this auction much more pretentious. In particular, there were 12 immortal gods who came and participated in the auction. The standard was very high. 12 immortal gods competing for 5 immortal god weapons, and a group of heaven's favorites competing for the spirit weapon set. The highest price of one immortal god weapon reached 1,650,000 spirit stones. This is crazy. The Dragon Gate auction house has completely succeeded this time. The next auction will be held in 2 months. When that time comes, I'm afraid there will be even more experts going over. Each and every spiritual weapon and medicinal pill is a precious treasure to every martial artist. Unfortunately, there are too many competitors. A grade 7 medicinal pill will be fought over by dozens of infant realm experts and even half-step immortal gods. This time, there are more than 40 items being auctioned. Every item that is taken out will attract a fight for it, and even a life and death fight. And the Dragon Gate has taken out so many at once. I don't dare to imagine how rich the Dragon Gate is. Tomorrow morning at 10 a.m., the 8 shops of the Dragon Gate Forging Workshop will open at the same time. At that time, they will sell grade 12 spiritual weapons and grade 7 medicinal pills. They will also be used to refine pills and weapons. Damn it, I don't have the qualifications to go to the auction. Tomorrow, I will be the first one to enter the Dragon Gate forging workshop. In the future, the Dragon Gate will very likely monopolize the refining of medicinal pills and weapons. However, based on the price that the Dragon Gate has offered, the Dragon Gate is welcome to monopolize it. Whether it is the refining of medicinal pills or spiritual weapons, the price of the Dragon Gate is simply too cheap. It is even cheaper than the refining of our Immortal Gate elders. Tomorrow, bring all of my family assets to the Dragon Gate forging workshop. The end of the Dragon Gate auction caused a great sensation. At this time, Mo Qinglong also officially announced that the Dragon Gate forging workshop would officially open for business tomorrow. As soon as this news was released, it instantly attracted the attention of the entire Jianghu. All the disciples of the Immortal Gate, even some immortals, were prepared to go. On the same night, martial artists were already heading to the city where the Jiang City and the other 7 Longmen forging workshop were located. As the opening of the shop was relatively close to the area of a cauldron, it wouldn't be so troublesome. After Wang Xian's strength increased, he smiled when he saw the information on the Jianghu website. The success of the Longmen forging workshop was just around the corner. At this moment, on the towering mountain peak covered by plants in the Yaoding. In the palace, 2 people who were completely shrouded in shadows were standing at the entrance. Their black eyes were staring at the group of immortals and deities in front of them. Make your move tomorrow. Out of the 8 shops, you have to destroy at least 3 of them. An old man in a green robe and an old man in fiery red clothes stood in the middle and spoke to the 2 shadowy figures. It's very easy. The opening day tomorrow will be the day we become ruins. Don't worry about us, Sly Thorn, doing things. A voice came from the Shadow Man's mouth. His tone was calm, as if to them, it was a very simple matter. All right then. As long as it's completed, we will send the reward on time. The old man in green robes nodded and spoke to the 2 shadow men. All right. The 2 black shadows nodded and slowly disappeared. The immortals of the Holy Medicine Immortal sect looked at each other when they saw the 2 leaving. We will directly destroy the shop closest to our Xiading. We will destroy it openly. The members of Dragon Gate will be killed immediately. In addition, we will send people to destroy at least 2 more shops. In the deepest part of the hall, an elder with a fat face slowly walked out and ordered. It's the Grand Supreme. In addition, we must be prepared for the Dragon Gate's revenge. However, this is a battle between a cat and a mouse. If they want revenge, we can make use of it to ambush them. Hee hee. Those who provoked us, the holy doctors, the holy medicines, and the immortal sects, will know how terrifying the price they will have to pay. This time, we will play with the Dragon Gate to the end. Tomorrow, we will make the Dragon Gate the laughingstock of the entire Jianghu. As long as we are here, it will never be possible for us to monopolize the pill refining and artifact refining. The Holy Doctor Holy Medicine Immortal sect and the other immortals laughed confidently. As a powerful immortal sect that had been passed down for 1,000 years, when they showed their fangs, it would definitely shake the entire Jianghu. Tomorrow, it would be the time for their Holy Medicine and Holy Medicine Immortal sect to suppress all the immortal sects. A crisis regarding the Dragon Gate forging workshop had already arrived. The next morning, Wang Xian and a group of girls walked towards the Dragon Gate forging workshop on the ancient street. Early in the morning, the entrance of the Dragon Gate forging workshop was filled with decorative items such as flowers. The plaque of the Dragon Gate forging workshop was hung up. The entire Dragon Gate forging workshop had been modified by the Puppet Immortal sect. It was a very luxurious shop. Wang Xian and a group of girls entered the shop. The shop assistants were all ordinary people who were responsible for the sale of elixirs. On the rooftop, 4 members of the Dragon Gate were guarding the safety of the items in the shop. 4 nascent soul realm warriors. The power of guarding the shop was sufficient. Dragon King, congratulations on the opening of the Dragon Gate forging workshop. Before the opening of the shop, many martial artists who were waiting for the opening of the shop had gathered in front of the shop. Most of these martial artists were also disciples of the Mingwang Immortals sect and the Puppet Immortals sect. At this moment, the voices of the sect masters of the two Immortals sects came from outside. A few Immortals came over to congratulate them. Congratulations on the opening of the Dragon Gate Forging Workshop. A cheerful voice was heard. The two Immortals of the Xian Yuan clan had arrived. Wang Xian went up to them with a smile. Thank you, thank you. Dragon King, you guys are going to monopolize all the elixirs and spiritual artifacts in the martial arts world this time. In the future, the Dragon Gate will be really rich. There will be an endless supply of resources. The two Immortals from the Xian Yuan clan said with some envy. If you two want elixirs and spiritual artifacts, you can come to me directly. I'll give you a bargain. Then, Dragon King, we'll take it seriously. We came here this time to look for Dragon King to help us refine spiritual artifacts. Then, I thank you for taking care of our business. Leave your spiritual artifacts to us, Dragon Gate. Wang Xian laughed and chatted with the 5 or 6 Immortals. As the time for the official opening of the shop approached, the number of disciples of the Immortal Gate at the entrance increased to a few thousand. This was not only the case in Jiang City. It was the same in other cities as well. Before the opening of the shop, there were already more than 1,000 disciples of the Immortal Gate waiting outside. The opening of the Dragon Gate Forging Workshop was something that many disciples had been looking forward to for a long time. However, among the crowd of people in the city, there were many people with strange gazes staring at the shop in front of them with smiles on their faces. In a city next to Xiaoding, the experts of the Holy Medicine Immortals sect slowly surrounded the Dragon Gate Forging Workshop. Chapter 792, The Battle had begun. The opening of the Dragon Gate Forging Workshop was a grand event for the entire Jianghu. At around 9 o'clock, thousands of disciples of the Immortals sects gathered around each shop. Only in the real city next to the Xiaoding area, there were not many martial artists who came to buy. The staff and members of the Dragon Gate were not too surprised by this situation. After all, there was hatred between the two sides, so it was impossible for them to come over to support the opening. However, they also believed that it would not be long before the disciples of the two great immortal sects came. Because the items in the shop and the price of refining weapons and pills were enough to tempt them. At 9:30, the doors of all the shops were opened. The moment the doors of the Dragon Gate Forging Workshop beside Xiaoding were opened, a special atmosphere condensed in the air. The bustling street instantly became cold and quiet. One after another, ordinary people hurriedly left into the distance. The expressions of the 4 Dragon Gate members standing on the second floor slightly changed, and they immediately stood up to look around, revealing embarrassed expressions. Not good. The expressions of the 4 people suddenly changed, and they directly broke out of the window and fled into the distance. Boom, boom, boom. Right at this moment, a terrifying attack directly covered over, and a thick pillar of fire directly blasted towards the Dragon Gate Forging Workshop. There wasn't the slightest bit of mercy, and there wasn't the slightest bit of leniency. Directly, over 10 infant stage experts exploded out with terrifying attacks. In an instant, the entire Dragon Gate Forging Workshop had turned into ruins, and even the traces had been completely wiped away. No one would have thought that the flourishing Dragon Gate Forging Workshop that was just a moment ago would disappear in the next moment. The people of the Holy Medicine Immortal sect, they want to completely start a war with us. The 4 Draconids had a shocked expression on their faces. They had directly dispatched dozens of top-tier experts to destroy their Dragon Gate shop. This meant that the Holy Medicine Immortal sect was going to become their enemy. They were going to start a war. No, it was possible that the Holy Medicine Immortal sect was going to make a move to intimidate the Dragon Gate. However, the 4 Draconids' eyes revealed a cold light. They looked at the infant realm and half-step immortal god experts who were surrounding them and roared, "Kill!" They knew that they couldn't escape this time, so they could only kill. The four draconids didn't fear death at all and directly attacked an infant realm expert. "Ha, Dragon Gate, today, my holy medicine immortal sect will let you know the consequences of offending us. Today, I will make you have no place in the Jianghu anymore." The experts of the holy medicine immortal sect shouted with excitement on their faces. The four draconids looked at each other and roared, "Die! Stop them! Today, all of you will die here, ha!" The expert of the holy medicine immortal sect laughed loudly. When an infant stage expert saw that the draconids wanted to break through from his side, his face revealed a trace of ridicule. He waved his arm, and a terrifying pillar of fire directly shot out, blocking in front of him. If they wanted to pierce through this pillar of fire, even an infant realm expert would be injured. Once they were injured, they would be dead for sure. His eyes revealed an excited expression as he muttered, "A small dragon gate actually dares to embarrass our holy medicine immortal sect. I wonder if you guys will be able to withstand our revenge." What? Suddenly, the smile on his face froze. The four draconids didn't slow down and charged into the pillar of fire without any hesitation. However, what shocked him even more was that these four draconids didn't flee to the side. Instead, they stared at him with bloodthirsty eyes. "Not good, they aren't trying to flee. They are trying to kill me." The middle-aged man's eyes revealed a terrified expression as he hurriedly fled to the side. This time, their holy medicine immortal sect dispatched over 20 infant realm experts and a half-step immortal god. Although there were many of them, they were all in an encirclement manner. Each person was about 500 meters apart. However, at this distance, only the two experts beside him could save him. "Save me!" He roared loudly, but he felt the terrifying demonic dragon clawing towards his body. His face was filled with terror as he raised the scepter in his hand, forming a flame defense. Boom boom boom. However, the four devil dragon claws directly pierced through the flame defense, tearing his body apart. "Ah!" A miserable scream rang out, causing the expressions of the surrounding experts from the Saint Medicine sect to change drastically. Despite being besieged by so many people, one of them was actually killed. This caused their expressions to be somewhat unsightly. "Kill!" The four draconids didn't hesitate at all. They knew that they wouldn't be able to escape this time. If they could kill one, then they would fight to the death. Death, the draconids weren't afraid at all. "Kill them all for me." Seeing that the four draconids didn't show any signs of escaping at all and were fighting to the death instead, the experts of the holy medicine immortal sect were shocked and shouted loudly. "Kill, kill, kill." Although the strength of the four draconids far exceeded that of ordinary infant realm experts, they could only fight one of the 20 or so experts of the holy medicine immortal sect. The gap was too big. Even though they were all equipped with grade 12 spiritual weapons, they were still killed 1 minute later. The four draconids died, and the Dragon Gate forging workshop was directly turned into ruins. Along with them were more than 10 ordinary employees. While the Dragon Gate forging workshop on Xia Ding's side was being attacked by the experts from the Holy Doctor and Holy Medicine Immortal sect, the other Dragon Gate forging workshops were also attacked at the same time. There were a total of 8 Dragon Gate forging workshops. One of them in Jiang City had Wang Xian and the others guarding it, while the other 7 were all attacked. The Holy Doctor and Holy Medicine Immortal sect sent out more than 40 infant realm experts to attack the 3 Dragon Gate forges. In addition, a group of infant realm and even half-step immortal god realm assassins from the Sly Thorn clan directly charged into the Dragon Gate forges. The moment the shop opened, it shocked all the disciples of the immortal sect who were waiting at the entrance. "Ha, Dragon Gate, today is the end for provoking our Holy Doctor and Holy Medicine Immortal sect." In front of a Dragon Gate forging workshop, a terrifying force directly caused the forging workshop to collapse. More than 10 infant stage powerhouses floated in the air and stared at the 4 draconids with cold faces. "Dragon Gate!" A cold voice resounded throughout half of the city. They wanted to let everyone know that this was the fate of the Dragon Gate. In front of another Dragon Gate forging workshop, 7 to 8 black shadows rushed into the shop, directly killing all the staff members, snatching all the medicinal pills, and completely destroying the forging workshop. Apart from Jiang City, the other forging workshops were all attacked horribly. In every place, there were at least 7 or 8 infant realm experts, and even more than 10 infant realm experts. The 4 dragon men guarding the workshop didn't have the time to resist at all, and the Dragon Gate forging workshop was instantly destroyed. This caused the eyes of the dragon men guarding the workshop to be filled with killing intent. The battle instantly erupted. As long as it was a dragon man who hadn't died once, they would directly fight it out with them. Life and death, a real war, is about to start. Chapter 793, The Battle had begun. Kill, kill, kill. You leave first, we will kill. In 7 cities, 7 Dragon Gate forges were located. Apart from the Dragon Gate forges in the Xiaoding region, which had been destroyed in an instant. In the rest of the cities, a group of draconids began to fight. Most of the people sent by Wang Xian to guard the Dragon Gate forges were draconids who had never died before. Most of the more than 30 draconids who were subdued by the Chaotic Sea region were sent to guard the workshop. However, there were also a few of the first batch of draconids who had died once. However, this was only a small number of them. The instantaneous outbreak of the battle caused all the disciples of the Immortal sect who were preparing to enter the Dragon Gate forging workshop to reveal shocked expressions. Quick, quick, retreat. Retreat to the back. It's the experts of the Saint Medicine Immortal sect. All of them are at the infant realm. They are completely making an enemy out of the Dragon Gate. They are directly sending over a dozen infant realm experts to attack the Dragon Gate forging workshop. Oh my god, the Saint Medicine Immortal sect is taking revenge. The group of disciples of the Immortal sect hurriedly retreated to the back. They looked at the over a dozen infant realm experts attacking the 4 members of the Dragon Gate. Kill. However, what shocked everyone was that not a single one of the 4 Dragon Gate members escaped. Instead, they instantly erupted with terrifying strength and charged forward. This caused everyone to suck in a breath of cold air. Are the people of the Dragon Gate crazy? Instead of escaping, they're directly fighting to the death. This is completely not on the same level. The difference in numbers is too great. Look at their attacks. The members of the Dragon Gate are risking their lives. All the disciples of the Immortal Gate were shocked when they saw the members of the Dragon Gate fighting to the death. An infant stage powerhouse did not run away when he had the chance to run away. He was fighting to the death with his opponent. This kind of meaningless attitude was rarely achieved. In fact, very few people even dared to do this when they knew that they would be killed if they didn't run. But the Draconids did. First, they were 100% obedient and didn't fear death. Second, they had the chance to be resurrected. Therefore, those Draconids who had never died attacked without fear of death. Huh, you still dare to attack us? You're simply courting death. In the future, there will be no place for your Dragon Gate to stand in the Jianghu. The group of experts from the Holy Medicine Immortal sect laughed out loud with cold expressions. The 4 Draconids didn't have the slightest fluctuation on their faces. They wore a set of grade 12 spirit weapon and were going all out. This caused the expressions of the group of experts from the Holy Medicine Immortal sect to slightly change, and they surrounded and attacked with vigilant expressions. The Holy Medicine Immortal sect was still fine, but the expression of the expert from the Strange Thorn clan was extremely unsightly. 7 or 8 infant realm experts from the Thorn clan were more than enough to destroy a shop. However, the Thorn clan didn't expect the Draconids to fight back with their lives. 2 infant realm experts against 1 could completely suppress them. However, they were Draconids, and they were wearing a set of grade 12 spirit tools. 2 against 1, they could barely draw. This shocked the assassin. However, what made them even more terrified was that the other party didn't seem to fear death at all. As long as they could seriously injure their opponent, even if they were stabbed with a dagger, they wouldn't dodge. They were fighting with their lives. The disciples of the Immortal sect who were watching from the surroundings also had shocked expressions on their faces. The experts of the Dragon Gate are too terrifying. They actually gave up their lives to fight. Some of the experts of the Immortal sect gulped as they watched in horror. The battle didn't last very long. The entire battle could be described as tragic. There was death without life. There really was death without life. Out of the dragon people of the 7 cities, only 9 survived and 18 died. The only one that was safe in the Dragon Gate forging workshop was the forging workshop next to the soup cauldron area. That was also because during the battle, the natural-born Immortal sect experts were by the side, protecting the entire forging workshop with thorns. The rest of the Dragon Gate forging workshop was directly turned into ruins. This news quickly spread to the Jianghu web, instantly causing a sensation in the entire Jianghu. In the ancient street of Jiang City, 5 minutes after the Dragon Gate forging workshop was attacked, he also received a message from Mo Qinglong. 9 of the dragon men survived. The rest died in battle. The ones who died were all dragon men who didn't die once. However, only one of our forging workshops survived. Mo Qinglong reported to Wang Xian with an embarrassed expression. None of them expected that after the Heaven's Pride competition ended, the Holy Doctor, Holy Medicine, an Immortal sect would send out 50 to 60 infant stage or even half-step Immortal God powerhouses to take revenge on the Dragon Gate. Under the circumstances where the Dragon sect had displayed such strength, they still dared to start a war. Holy Doctor, Holy Medicine, Immortal sect? Wang Xian's eyes flashed with a bone-piercing coldness as he asked coldly, how much of the medicinal pills and spiritual artifacts were lost? Dragon King, this time, it wasn't just the Holy Doctor Holy Medicine Immortal sect that took action. There was also the Strange Thorn clan. The Strange Thorn clan belonged to the Assassin clan, and half of the medicinal pills and spiritual artifacts were lost. Mo Qinglong said in a deep voice. 18 draconids were killed and 6 forging workshops were destroyed. Very good, very good. Holy Doctor and Holy Medicine Immortal sect, the treacherous Thorn clan. Wang Xian's eyes were filled with killing intent. Ao Jian, go to the Dragon Palace and ask Prime Minister Gui to announce the emergence of the Dragon Palace. Ao Yao, go back and bring all your treacherous demon clan here. Also, bring all your golden swordfish clan's infant stage clansmen here. Since they want to play, let's play with them. Once the 9-headed Hui breaks through. I don't care about your immortal agreement. It's the Dragon King. It's the Dragon King. Ao Yao and Ao Jian stood in front of Wang Xian and said respectfully. Little Xian, is the Dragon Palace about to appear? Beside them, Xiao Yu, Lan Qingyue, and the other girls frowned slightly and asked in surprise. The Dragon Palace was located in the ocean. Even to the Immortal sects, it was a place of miracles. They were not prepared to make the Dragon Palace appear when they did not have absolute power. The Dragon Palace will appear sooner or later in the war with the Holy Doctor, Holy Medicine, Immortal sect, and the Thorn tribe. Now is the perfect time. Wang Xian's eyes flickered. Although the 9-headed Hui had not broken through yet, it was about time for the Dragon Palace to appear. It's good that it's happening now. We have to let all the Immortal sects know that we are not to be trifled with. Those who dare to provoke us will have to pay a heavy price. Xiao Yu and the other girls also spoke with frosty expressions. This time, the Holy Doctor, Holy Medicine, Immortal sect, and the Strange Thorn tribe had destroyed 6 Dragon Gate forging workshops and killed 18 draconids. In addition, they had also killed more than 100 ordinary workers hired by the shop. They would have to pay an unimaginable price for this grudge. Ao Jian and Ao Yao left and flew toward the Dragon Palace. When they returned, not only would there be the 2 of them, but there would also be the terrifying race of the Dragon Palace. The Dragon Palace would appear. It would be like an immortal sect, appearing in front of the world. You're tuning into the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.